Welcome back to the channel. Today we will travel through the pages of What If Deku Gained Powers to Change His Fate Part 9. The link to the story will be in the description below, and if you want an update of the current series, join the Discord. Now let's start. Chapter 25 VRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRRR Izuku mumbled. BRRRRRRRRRRRRR, nah dude. That's a bike, Ryuji shook his head dumbly. If you don't want to get run over then get out of my way. Makoto snarled, revving up her persona again as she spun to face the large shadow in front of her. Why you damn brat. You'll pay with your lives for defying us. The shadow growled. It aimed its arm forward at her, snapping its finger and releasing a single shot like a bullet. Izuku tried to warn her, but Makoto was already on it. Her persona quickly sped out of the way, dodging it seamlessly as accelerated towards the shadow. Makoto pulled off a quick backspin once she got close, grinding the back wheel into the shadow and causing it to recoil in pain. I told you to get out of my way. Now, Johanna. The silver face on the bike's front glass flashing for a moment before unleashing a ball of teal energy. In a brilliant flash, the large white shadow screamed as it was left in a ball of smoke, shriveling and scorched from the attack. Holy shit. Ryuji guffawed, his jaw dropping. She's strong. Morgana mumbled in awe. Yeah, but let's back her up. Izuku declared, pulling his mask off and summoning Carter. Mikauha. Carter slammed his fist into the ground, releasing a small wave of light in all directions and knocking the Kappa Tengus away from them. They're all knocked down. Come on, guys. Anne called out, she and Izuku jumping forward first. Ryuji and Morgana soon followed, the four rushing to Makoto's side and pulling out their weapons as she willed her persona away. Let's do it. Makoto exclaimed as she fell in line, the five rushing forward and quickly striking out at the shadow, with furious blows from their handheld weapons. Izuku took note of the fact that knuckle dusters had taken shape from Makoto's cognition, which she used to full effect while attacking their foe. Gah. The shadow cried in despair as they landed the finishing blow, its body turning into black ooze and dissipating before their eyes. Now who's the good little girl, Makoto spat, cracking her neck not so graciously. It's been a long time since I've seen you snap like that. Izuku laughed quietly, a bead of sweat rolling down his cheek. Sup, champion of Century's End. Ryuji smirked, walking up next to Makoto. You wanna get smacked? Makoto huffed, sending a small glare his way. Hey, careful. The shadows are getting back up. Anne called, the others shifting their attention back to the group of Kappa Tengu. Izuku had blasted back. We shouldn't waste time fighting them. I'm sure more shadows will appear after that alarm sounded, Morgana said, looking at the others. Let's break through these guys and get to that safe room. You had something you wanted to test with the metanav, right, hero? Yeah, we just have to make it there first, Izuku nodded, reaching up to his mask. I'll break us through, Makoto said, Johanna manifesting immediately. You guys stay close. I'm going on ahead. Without another word, Makoto blasted forth, her persona easily ramming its way through the shadows and reducing them to roadkill on the velvety carpet. Damn, Ryuji mumbled in amazement. Alright, we have our opening. Let's go. Izuku called out, not wasting another moment as he led the group forward. Man, I can't believe that worked. I didn't know the metanav could do that. Ryuji exclaimed. After making their quick escape and getting to a safe room just nearby, Izuku had used the metanav to teleport them back to the entrance before taking them back to the real world. It was a theory I thought I'd test. Now we know we can cut a lot of time by using the metanav to go to safe rooms that get marked once we locate them. Izuku smiled before looking back down at Makoto, the older girl hunched over next to him on the sidewalk. Are you alright, Koto-san? I have some medicine or maybe something to drink if you need them. They just give me a moment and I'll be fine, Makoto breathed out, though accepting a water bottle when offered by Izuku. I've never been so tired before in my life, remind me to never get on your bad side. You've got some fire in you, girl, Anne giggled half-jokingly, rubbing the side of her head. I'd be afraid of getting my arm ripped off. Please, stop it, Makoto grumbled, forcing herself to stand up despite obvious signs of fatigue. But, I have to admit it felt great cutting loose like that. Who would have guessed that the calm and collected student president would have such a fury waiting to be tapped into? Morgana commented, causing Makoto to release a sheepish laugh. Perhaps I went a little overboard, but just thinking about all the times I've held myself back trying to be the good patient girl that listens to adults kept making me more and more pissed off, Makoto explained, flashing a smile at the rest of the group. I'm sorry for putting you all in danger with my selfishness, but thank you for taking me along. Because of what happened, everything seems clear. Course. We look out for each other, no matter what. Ryuji said, flashing a dumb grin and a thumbs up. Now that you've got a persona, you're officially initiated into the group. Anne giggled. We've all made mistakes, Makoto, as you saw from me, Morgana chuckled. But what matters is proceeding onward and learning from those mistakes. Izuku smiled. Let's keep fighting on from here. We've still got a ways to go. Right, Makoto nodded back before looking at Morgana. So, you said that there's a way past that door in the real world. Ah, yes. I suppose we haven't gone over that yet. Morgana climbed higher on Izuku's shoulder to look at everyone. Okay, everyone. Listen close. That door is built upon a powerful cognition in Madaram's mind and is represented by a place within his shack. Whoa, for real? How do you know that? Asked Ryuji. Morgana puffed his chest out proudly. I went scouting the last time we were there to look for places of interest just in case. You were scouting because you were bored, Anne rolled her eyes, neatly popping the cat's inflated self-image. So how exactly is that door linked to the real world and his cognition? Makoto asked, bringing the cat back to life. Well, while I was scouting, I happened to find a door with a rather hefty and impressive lock on it. One that matched the design of the door we saw in Madaram's palace, Morgana explained, earning a wide-eyed look from the teens. So there's something in there that Madaram doesn't want people to see. Anne added, earning a nod from the cat. So what you're saying is that, to Madaram, that door is sealed and will remain that way until his cognition of it has been changed. Makoto suggested with a thoughtful look. Very perceptive, Makoto. Yes, that is exactly what we have to do. And the only way to do that is open the door before his eyes, showing him that it's not the impenetrable place he believes it to be, Morgana went on to explain. Ryuji blanched. Wait, open it in front of him. How the hell do we do that? Well, I can handle opening the lock so long as I get a hairpin to do it. But I'll need time and a distraction. If only we knew someone with a way inside. Morgana flashed a Cheshire cat grin as his gaze drifted over to Anne. Ryuji smirked. I mean, I guess it is our only option. The rest of us would definitely get reported if they caught us trying to break in, after all what? Anne asked, her tone becoming defensive as the rest of the team's eyes fell on her. I guess the only way for this to work is if you go nude. Ryuji's smirk grew. What? Fancy you say that, Ryuji. I was thinking the exact same thing, Morgana chuckled, eyes focused on Anne now. This isn't funny. Anne complained, looking at Makoto and Izuku. See, come on, guys. You're the brains here. There has to be another way. While Izuku and Makoto had more awkward and sympathetic looks, they weren't at all reassuring. When they cast their gazes away, Anne's hopes vanished. Say something. I hate to put you in that spot, Anne-senpai, but I think they're right, Izuku mumbled, rubbing his arm nervously. Well, look on the bright side. At least Kitagawa-kun will let me be there to reassure you. Makoto offered with a forced smile. But I'm still going to have to get naked. This is too sudden. Anne cried, stamping her foot in frustration. Look, you don't really gotta get nude, Ryuji sighed, his amusement fading with Anne's attitude. He's right. It's simply the best excuse for getting inside his house without raising suspicions, Morgana added. So for this mission, you'll have to play decoy Lady Anne. But how long will it take for you to open the door? Plus, I don't even know where it is. Anne was grasping at straws at this point. Don't worry. I'll accompany you and handle the door, Morgana said with confidence. I'm sorry, Takamaki-san. Just know I'll be right there with you, Makoto said, placing a hand on her shoulder. Well, that's Anne released a sigh in defeat, slumping her shoulders. I guess that's better than being alone, thanks, Naijima-senpai. A lot better than these guys. She shot a glare Ryuji and Morgana's way, causing the two to look away awkwardly. I can't try to think of something, but I really don't see another way. Sorry, Anne-senpai, Izuku mumbled, hanging his head in shame. Still, the problem is if we get found out. How do we escape? Makoto asked, looking at Morgana. We'll just run into the palace. Or something, Morgana coughed under his breath. Is that really gonna work? You're not giving me much confidence here. Anne complained as she glared at the cat. It'll be okay, Takamaki-san. Escaping into the palace shouldn't be a problem if the metanav can work in anywhere within the palace's vicinity, Makoto tried to reassure her. Well, yeah, I guess, Anne mumbled, looking down dejectedly. Fine, I'll do it, damn it. For justice. That's the spirit. Okay, you go ahead and set up an appointment for tomorrow and we'll be all set. Ryuji grinned, giving her a thumbs up. Tomorrow, that soon? Anne blanched. The sooner the better. Try to sell the idea that you need it done tomorrow, Kay. Ugh. God. Anne groaned in irritation before glaring at the boys again. You better not mess it up. I'll strangle you guys if I do all this and it doesn't work. We won't waste your efforts. Izuku quickly nodded. I'm sure it'll be fine. Stop worrying. Ryuji took a step back, giving a nervous laugh. Anne let out a tired breath before looking at Makoto. I'm glad you're going to be there, at least. Thank you. Hey, is it alright if I call you Makoto? The third year blinked in surprise. Oh really? I mean sure if you don't mind that I call you Anne. Of course. We're fellow phantom thieves, after all. No need to be so formal, Anne giggled, showing more levity as the topic changed. Hey, mind if I do the same? You're one of us, so it only feels right, Ryuji said, bringing a bright smile to Makoto's face. Of course. I'd be happy if you all did. Izuku didn't say a word, but he was smiling all the same. I doubt we'll change what we call each other, but it's nice to see she's past that point with the others. Alright, everyone. I think that concludes our job for today. Let's head home and rest up, Morgana suggested, earning a round of nods in return. Kodo-san, I'll take you home, if that's alright, Izuku offered, moving to the elder girl's side. I know you're probably still drained from what happened. I just want to make sure you get home alright. That'd be great, thanks. I am still winded, to be honest, Makoto breathed out, giving Izuku a small smile. Alright then. Guess I'll head off with Anne. Gotta get her mentally ready for tomorrow, you know. Ryuji joked. It earned him a harsh jab to the side from Anne's elbow. Ow. Wow. I didn't realize you lived in such a big apartment, now Izuku said as he walked through hall leading to Makoto's apartment with her clothes next to him. Yeah. Sis needed a place close to work since they call her in so often, so they helped her find a place within Shibuya, Makoto explained, looking up in thought. Though I don't think they needed her to live this close, she definitely wanted to be so she was ready for whatever they had for her at a moment's notice. Seiwani-san was always a hard worker. But I guess I never saw the full extent of it, Izuku said with a bit of awe. Well it wasn't always like that. She knew how to relax before well, you know I see Izuku looked away and scratched the back of his head. Sorry. Don't worry about it. I've come to terms with that, Makoto reassured him with a small smile. She came to an abrupt halt as they neared the door. Oh, sis. Izuku blinked, looking up to see none other than Sei standing by a door with a key in hand. The elder Naijima's sister looked up from the door. There you are, Makoto. I was wondering if you were inside. And Sei's attention shifted to Izuku, raising a brow curiously at him. Oh, little Izu. I'm surprised to see you here, too. Hi, Seiwani-san Izuku waved with an awkward smile. Good to see you again, so soon. But what were you both doing out so late? Sei asked, looking back down at the door and opening it. We were just out jogging together. Why yes, jogging together. As you can see from my attire, Makoto added stiffly, looking down at her workout clothes. It had been so long since we last worked out together, so we thought we'd hang out after school. Exercise stimulates the brain. You two are the worst liars, Morgana whispered from Izuku's bag. Sei wasn't buying it if the quirk in her brow was any indication. The strained smiles on their faces certainly didn't help. Despite her reservations, she only rolled her eyes. Well, if you say so. Anyways, would you like to come in, little Izu? I can make you something to drink if you're thirsty. Oh, no, I'm fine. Thank you for the offer, Siani-san. Izuku waved his arms sporadically. I was just making sure Kodo-san got home alright. I have to head back now, too. Alright then. Be careful on your way home. Sei nodded as she gave him a small smile. I will. See you at school, Kodo-san. Izuku said, giving her a small wave before turning around. Okay, then. See you at school, Makoto nodded, returning it as she walked up next to Sei. The sisters watched him as he left, the green-haired teen still waving awkwardly until he got to the elevator. Once the doors closed behind him, Sei couldn't help but let out a small laugh. Sei opened the door, letting them inside. I see he hasn't changed a bit. Still as shy and nervous as he was when he was a cute little kid. Yes, he's very much like when we were children, Makoto nodded in agreement. He's matured for sure, but he's still the same boy I met on the playground. That doesn't surprise me. Though something strange did come up from that case at your school. Makoto stiffened as she watched her sister set her purse on the dining room table. Izuku's name popped up on a list of suspects for Suguru Kamoshida's so-called change of heart. But it was quickly thrown out since he's quirkless. Still, I thought it was strange until I found out he had a criminal record. Did you know about this? Makoto looked at the ground, releasing a sigh as she rubbed her arm. Yes, I knew. A student leaked the info to the student body. Practically everyone at Shujin knows about his record now. Sei crossed her arms over her chest and thought. Yes, that was part of Kamoshida's confession. Still, the idea of little Izu having a record for assault of all things took me by surprise. It's a bogus charge. Makoto blurted out, startling her sister. Sorry, I didn't mean to shout, but Izuku explained what happened to me. Whoever it was that he supposedly assaulted lied to the police's face and got Izuku slapped with a criminal record for no good reason. His first month at school couldn't even be normal because of that. Sei looked down at the table, giving her words some thought. I don't doubt that Izuku thinks he was doing the right thing in that situation, but I also remember that Izuku often liked to play hero when you were kids. What are you saying? Makoto asked. Her voice rose a little at the seemingly innocuous statement. I'm sure Izuku had his heart in the right place, but now that he's older, playing hero can have grave consequences. Sei sighed, peering at Makoto from the side. Her sister remained silent, but her eyes conveyed the offense in her mind. Look, I care about little Aizu, too. But you have to keep your priorities straight. Don't get distracted with protecting him when you have your own future to worry about. Despite his circumstances, little Aizu seems to be doing alright. If you two want to be friends again, that's fine. But remember what your priorities are. Understand? Makoto swallowed a lump in her throat. While she had decided to rebel, she could only do so in secret. Resisting her sister too strongly would only make things worse. With that in mind, Makoto nodded. I do. I promise that he's not a distraction. Sei watched her only for a moment longer before nodding again. Good. I'm going to take a shower first if you don't mind. I just came by to wash up a bit and eat before heading back. Sure, go ahead. I'll whip something up for you real quick, Makoto nodded, watching as her sister walked past her and headed for the bathroom. Sorry, sis. But I'm going to do what I want, now. As a phantom thief. Sorry to ask you to do this all of a sudden, Anne said hesitantly as she watched Yusu collect his art supplies. Oh, it's no problem. But, as I told you yesterday, Sensei will be returning in 20 to 30 minutes. So I'm sorry if that causes some anxiety on your part, Yusuke said, sounding genuinely apologetic despite the circumstances. That's why I'm here today, damn it, Anne couldn't stop herself from muttering, getting a small jab from Makoto in the side. What was that? Yusuke asked, looking back at her in question. Oh, nothing. She's just nervous, Makoto sheepishly laughed, waving a hand. Alright, don't mind me, Anne quickly nodded. I see. By the way, Yusuke gave Anne another look in wonder. Have you gained some weight? Despite what would normally be a rude question, it wasn't without merit. Anne was clad in an entire wardrobe of clothing, making her look rather plump all around. It should have been rather obvious that it was clothing from Makoto's perspective, but they had somehow fooled Yusuke. You think so? I weigh the same as usual. Maybe I'm a bit bloated today. Anne shrugged, earning a raised brow. If you say so. Now before we begin, I must make this clear to you, Naijima-san. Yusuke shifted his attention to the third year, his brow knitting sternly. While I have no qualms with you being here to reassure Takamaki-san, I do not wish to speak of Sensei and his affairs like before. Are we clear? Yes, Crystal, Makoto nodded in understanding. Alright then. Let's get started, Yusuke shifted his attention to Anne. Started right as in, you want me to take off my clothes, right? Yes, that is correct, Yusuke said with hesitance. Okay then, could you turn around for me? I'm still nervous, Anne asked, reaching down for the bottom of the first shirt on the surface. Yusuke silently turned his back to Anne obediently. Pulling off the first article of clothing, she made a point to toss it within his range of sight. Yusuke made a nervous sound when it landed by his feet, but attempted to keep his cool. There we go. He recoiled when a skirt landed at his feet. Much better. That was so tight. Yusuke mumbled, his skin glistening with sweat as his mind momentarily ran wild. He quickly shook his head. And no. I'm doing this for art. Nothing else. What was that? And nothing, Yusuke mumbled, flinching as a pair of leggings flew just past him. By the way, you said that your sensei would be here soon, right? Anne asked, smirking at Makoto as the third year held in a fit of giggles next to her. Why yes, he will. Do you think we could do this somewhere else, then? A little more atmosphere would be lovely, Anne said hopefully, pulling another piece of clothing among the pile from her body. This should be good enough, Yusuke suggested, raising a brow in wonder. But wouldn't a room with a lock be a bit better? A lock? Must a girl say more? The tank top slid between his legs. Yusuke quickly scooted away. But the only room with a lock here is Sensei's room. Why not there? Anne asked hopefully. I can't intrude, besides, I don't have a key. Well, there's your answer. It's your turn, Mona, Makoto whispered to the cat, opening her shoulder bag and setting it on the floor. Got it. Leave it to me, the cat said, pulling a hairpin out of Makoto's bag with his teeth and hopping out. Takamaki-san, are you about? Yusuke turned around, blinking when he saw a mound of clothes sitting on the ground. You were wearing all this? It's pretty cold today, don't you think? Anne lamely excused. I suppose so. Yusuke wasn't sure if it was that cold. The sun is starting to set, Right. That's why a change of location would be perfect. Anne suggested, striking a ditzy pose. True, Yusuke mumbled, giving her suggestion some thought. It might make for a better picture if my model's mood is improved. That's right. She might even be willing to try out various expressive poses for more dynamic composition. Yusuke smiled at the idea, causing both Makoto and Anne to flinch. What kind of Makoto quickly gripped Anne's arm, putting on a plastic smile. I have to agree. I mean, after all, how could any girl feel comfortable in such a dimly lit room? A change of scenery would certainly fuel your creativity. Makoto said in support, pulling the door open. Think of the variety that might be had in a better atmosphere. Come on Anne. Let's try and find somewhere else. Why you're totally right, Makoto. Let's go Anne said, giving the third year a thumbs up as the two headed out of the room. Wait, if you wander around, sensei will. Yusuke was cut short when Anne's jacket flew into his doorway. It's so hot. Yusuke had to swallow a lump in his throat and compose himself. Please, Takamaki-san. This really is no other room we can use. How about this one? Please, wait. Izuku and Ryuji stood in front of the lasers patiently, staring up at the gaudily designed door. You really think they can handle this? It seems like they've got to deal with a lot, Ryuji asked, glancing at Izuku. I believe in them. I'm sure that Kodo-san and Anne-senpai will be able to handle their part of the plan just as much as Morgana-san. I guess but Anne was saying stuff like I'll just seduce him with my acting. But that sounds way out of her league, if you ask me. Ryuji stuffed his hands in his pockets as he turned to Izuku. But maybe Makoto can make up for that. Is she a decent actor? Well I mean, she's Izuku began to sweat, scratching his cheek nervously at the thought. That's not reassuring. But setting that aside for a sec, even if Mona opens up the door, how the hell's he gonna show it to Madaram? And even if he manages that, won't Madaram just close it up real quick? If that happens, don't that mean we only got a few seconds to get in? If I'm being honest, it feels like it'll take a miracle for all of this to work out. Izuku looked down in thought, feeling all of Ryuji's worries pile on him as well. But only a moment later, he looked back at Ryuji and gave a big grin. This might sound really optimistic, but I'd say we've pulled off a few miracles by now, haven't we? I believe they'll manage somehow. Ryuji felt a smirk play on his lips, giving a small nod back. Heh. When you put it like that, it makes me feel pretty good about this, too. Alright, here's hoping they show us another miracle. Hey, Makoto, have you found a suitable place? Anne called, beginning to sweat as she tried to keep an even pace ahead of Yusuke. Please, ladies, you really can't. Yusuke cried in panic. Why, Anne? I think I've found the perfect place. Makoto answered, tilting her head not so inconspicuously toward the end of another hall. Is he done? Anne whispered loudly. And no, not yet. We have to stall. Makoto urged, looking to the side to see Morgana hanging from the door and fiddling with the lock. I keep telling you, I will be in grave trouble. Yusuke almost pleaded as he caught up with the girls. Seeing their confused faces, he raised a brow. Is something the matter? Nothing, just wondering what's in there. Anne said, putting on her act again. That room? It's storage for old paintings, Yusuke said, looking between the girls. There's not much to see, I would think. Makoto shared a look with Anne. Old paintings. Well, why don't we use that room, then? We'll have the most privacy in there, right? Anne suggested, supposedly turning up her charm. As Anne's confidant in this, I do think that this would be the most appropriate place for something like a nude painting. Makoto added, holding up her index finger like it would get her point across. Only sensei can go in there, Yusuke explained, biting his bottom lip. Ace. We're just trying to get comfortable, Anne said, swaying her hips back and forth to seem more appealing. Is he really going to buy that terrible act? Morgana whispered. Focus, would you? Anne hissed back at him. Yusuke blinked, seeing her attention being drawn away. Don't mind her. We were just trying to figure out the best way inside that room. How else can you make the perfect portrait? Makoto asked, taking a step in front of Anne and giving a disturbingly forced smile. But sensei won't like us poking around. Besides, I don't have the key. Yusuke reasoned, only for Anne to put on a pout. But why Yusuke, how else do you expect me to get fully and naked for a portrait? Anne hugged her arms, sticking her chin up. If that's how you're going to be, then I'm leaving. Wait, let's not be so hasty. Yusuke protested, putting his hands up to keep her from walking out. Come on, let's just do the painting in there. Anne pushed, her actions beginning to make Yusuke sweat as he hopelessly looked to Makoto for any sort of out. What the model wants, she should get. He should have known he had no support there. What do I do? Yusuke mumbled, looking down in misery. I'm home. The four, including Morgana, flinched when they heard Madaram's voice. Sensei, Yusuke muttered in fear, turning around to look at the main entrance. Anne and Makoto exchanged glances before running back to the door, Morgana still hanging from the lock and fiddling with it. Is it open yet? We're out of time. Anne asked, looking back and forth between the hall and the door. Almost. Morgana fumbled the hairpin in his mouth, the pressure suddenly making him mess up. See crap. Yusuke, what are you doing? They heard Madaram's voice approaching. Sensei, I can explain H here, let me try. If I absorb some metal I should. Makoto started, only for Anne to step forward and quickly snatch Morgana off the lock. Take him, Anne said as she shoved him into Makoto's arms. Anne massaged her jaw for a moment before leaning forward and snapping her jaws shut on the ring of the padlock. She let out a low growl and furiously tugged the lock off the door, easily breaking it off and spitting the lock on the ground. Ugh. The lock was kinda dusty, Anne spat, trying to get the taste off her tongue. And you said you were afraid to get on my bad side, Makoto muttered with a sheepish smirk. Please, Takamaki-san. You have to explain. Yusu came around the corner, eyes widening in horror as he saw the storage room door being pushed open. What? Yusuke, what is going on? Madaram asked, his voice on edge as he rounded the corner. Who opened that door? Sensei, this isn't what it looks like. Yusu quickly spun around, holding up his hands as sweat trailed down his face. Anne and Makoto looked at one another before reaching forward and grabbing Yusuke by the collar, quickly pulling him into the room as they went inside. Not in there. Huh. Izuku and Ryuji spread their arms to balance themselves as the palace around them began to shake, both looking up at the painted door. It slid open on both sides and the lasers deactivated immediately afterward. Ryuji grinned. It's off. They seriously did it. I knew they would. Let's go. Izuku smiled back, not wasting another moment before running through the newly opened path with Ryuji at his side. Past the doors was yet another gaudily designed hallway like the rest. Izuku saw a shadow waiting in the doorway at the end of the hall. With little room to hide, he spared a look at his partner. We're going to have to fight that shadow head on. Ready? Ready as ever, man, Ryuji smirked, giving him a thumbs up as they both picked up their pace. Hey, you two. Halt. The shadow ordered. Izuku and Ryuji didn't listen, both pulling out their close-ranged weapons and assuming fighting stances the moment they were close enough. Sorry, asshole, but we're busting our way through you. Ryuji laughed, pointing his bat at the shadow and glaring. No way we're gonna screw this up. Not after Anne was able to get the doors open. She'll tear us a new one way worse than you could. HMPH. If you won't stop, then I will force you both to surrender. The shadow growled, its body morphing into a pile of black ooze before taking shape as the large white shadow they had fought the previous day with Makoto. Let's take this asshole out, hero. Ryuji called out, rushing forward with Izuku. A bat and staff were raised in the air, slamming into the sides of the monster. But to their surprise, the hit didn't faze it in the least as it stood there. See crap, it's impervious to physical attacks. Izuku exclaimed, immediately hopping back with Ryuji as they avoided a bullet shot from the shadow's hand. What a pain in the ass. But whatever, we can handle that much. Ryuji growled, quickly putting a hand on his mask. Captain Kidd. The pirate persona took shape above him, quickly unleashing a volley of lightning from its arm cannon. The shadow slightly recoiled from the blast but remained standing. You intruders have no place here. The shadow snarled, snapping its fingers and fired a hail of bullets at Ryuji. The punk teen grit his teeth as Kidd shielded hit from a direct hit, grunting as the damage which transferred to him. Damn it. I don't have a persona with an ability like Queen's. We'll have to keep hitting it. Izuku touched his mask, Kappa Tengu forming above him. Geru. A gale of wind blasted into the shadow, yielding the same result as Ryuji's attack and only causing it to recoil again. You intruders are getting on my nerves. It growled, waving its hand in front of itself and bathing itself in the familiar light of Terracotta. Be careful. It powered up. Izuku warned, putting some more distance between him and the shadow. We'll have to keep building up damage. Got it. Ryuji nodded, getting into a runner's stance. Let's make it hard for this guy to stop us, too. You can't escape me. The shadow growled, pointing its hand forward and firing another gunshot. Ryuji and Izuku were already on the move though. The shadow's attack whizzed past their heads as they started to run in a circle around the shadow. It looked around at them in confusion, trying to bear down on one of them but struggling. Geru. Izuku called out again, a gust smashing into its side and throwing off its aim before the shadow could get a shot off. It growled in frustration, taking aim at Izuku once again. Blast him. The bolt of lightning seared its back, causing the shadow to groan in pain as it staggered on its feet. Why you damn intruders. Madaram will now. Captain Kidd flying at the shadow's face while Kappa Tengu approached from behind at their master's commands. The pirate persona put its cannon right in the shadow's face and unleashed a blast of lightning while the Tengu stacked the damage by blasting its back with a powerful gale. The shadow cried out in misery before the damage became too much, its body dissipating into black ooze. Izuku and Ryuji took a moment to catch their breath, smiling at one another and quickly clasping hands together. Hell yeah. No one can stop the two of us. Ryuji cheered. Nice work, Skull. Izuku replied. Come on, let's turn off the security system. We should hurry before more shadows show up. This is bad. Yusuke whispered in the darkness, his voice shaking. Is this the light switch? Anne asked as she felt a hanging cord from the ceiling. She quickly tugged it, turning on a ceiling light. As the room lit up, the four were met with a strange sight that took them all aback. An entire line of Sayuri paintings placed by the wall, numbering around 10. At the center of the room was a single covered stand, though it hadn't grabbed any of their immediate attention. What the? Yusuke sputtered, eyes widening in confusion as he looked at the paintings in wonder. That's the Sayuri, but why are there so many of them? Anne asked. I have no idea. Yusuke's eyes scanned the room while his brain struggled to process what he's seeing. Makoto held a hand to her mouth. Is he reproducing them? Get out. Madara barked as he entered the room. The three shifted their gaze to him. His gentle facade had been replaced with a furious glare. Sensei, what is the meaning of this? Yusuke asked, stepping forward in his desperation. Madara looked at Yusuke for a moment before sighing, holding a hand to his head as he assumed a more vulnerable expression. I suppose I can't keep quiet about this, now I'm sorry to say that I'm in severe debt. I handmade these Sayuri copies and sold them through a special connection of mine. But why? Yusuke asked. His voice conveying hurt as he looked back at the paintings. The real Sayuri was stolen from me by one of my former pupils a long time ago. He likely begrudged my strictness. That event was a great shock to me. Since then, I've been mired in a terrible artist's block, Madara continued, his voice becoming more sullen as he spoke. Because of my distress, some of my pupils handed over their ideas to me from time to time. Makoto and Anne shared a look of distrust for his words, allowing their eyes to drift back to the paintings by the wall. Morgana, on the other hand, peered at the veiled painting against the wall. I knew I couldn't keep doing that forever and attempted to recreate the Sayuri a number of times. However, it resulted in nothing more than replicas. That's when someone came by to purchase the paintings, knowing full well they weren't original. Madara released a depressed sigh, shaking his head. It was all my fault. I couldn't pay the price of being famous. In the end, as expectations rose, I had no choice but to keep making them. I needed money to keep furthering your talents. Please forgive me for being a cowardly teacher. Yusuke's expression had softened considerably, his eyes sympathetic to his master. Please don't, this sounds a little fictitious to me, Makoto spoke up, bringing their attention to her. What about you, Anne? Yeah, you're right, this doesn't make much sense to me either. How were you able to recreate the Sayuri if you don't have the original? Anne asked, raising a brow in suspicion. I happened upon a fairly detailed image of it in a book, Madara hesitantly explained. Makoto knit her brow. Being able to reproduce copies of an original from a photo sounds rather unlikely. Even if the art was made by you, the details needed to keep the paintings consistent wouldn't be conveyed in a photo. Yeah. People who buy paintings like that usually have a keen eye for fine arts, Anne added, looking at Makoto and Yusuke for a moment. They'd be able to pick a fake from a photo out real easy. What would you know? Madara snapped back, glaring at the girls again. PSST. Hey. The girls looked down at the ground to see Morgana. The one covered up here. It seems different. Anne spun around and yanked the cloth off before Madara or Yusuke could protest. It revealed another painting of Sayuri. Both girls eyed Madara suspiciously. It was one thing if it was a fake, but Yusuke's heart skipped a beat the moment he laid eyes on it. Wait, that's Yusuke took a step closer to inspect it. That's the real Sayuri. He whipped his head back to look at Madara in confusion. But you just said the real Sayuri was stolen. That's a replica. Madara exclaimed, his composure quickly fading. No. It's nothing of the sort. Yusuke declared, pointing an accusing finger at his master. This painting kept me going, it's the reason I made it this far. Sensei, don't tell me, that's a fake, I'm telling you. A counterfeit. I heard a counterfeit was going around, so I bought it. You're telling me that the original artist bought a counterfeit of his own work? That's really pushing it, Anne huffed, placing a hand on her hip. You're lying, Sensei. Please, just tell us the truth, Yusuke asked, taking a step forward as he tried to understand. Now you two. Madara narrowed his eyes, looking at the three in anger. He pulled a phone out of his sleeve, taking a step forward and brandishing it at them like a gun. I've just reported you all to my private security company. What? Makoto and Anne blurted. I hired them on to deal with some troublesome paparazzi. Who would have thought they would come in so handy? Madara smirked triumphantly. Wait, Sensei. Let's talk about this. Yusuke pleaded, confused by the sudden turn of events. You can talk all you want with the police, that includes you, Yusuke, Madara declared, glaring at his pupil cruelly. Lady Anne, Makoto. We need to run. Morgana said, poking his head out from behind a shelf. The girls didn't need to be told twice, quickly making a break for the door with Morgana taking the lead. They ducked past Madara before he could stop them. Don't even bother. They'll be here within 2 minutes. Madaram barked after them, wrinkling his nose in annoyance. "Ladies, please wait." Yusuke called out, quickly giving chase with little idea of what else to do. "Those intruders are around here somewhere. Find them." Izuku and Ryuji didn't wait around in the security office to get cornered. They were already booking it back to the place they started, hoping to put enough distance between them and the shadows that they wouldn't be in danger of another fight. They skidded to a stop, watching as the previously deactivated laser system had suddenly disappeared, lowering into the ground and posing no more threat. Ryuji pumped his fist. "Alright. Looks like we can go through here with no worries." "Yeah. Let's retreat to the safe room and wait to see if the others were able to escape." "They did say they would come to the palace if they needed to," Izuku suggested, earning a nod from his partner before the two pushed forward. "Oh, this isn't good." Izuku and Ryuji came to a halt before leaving the courtyard. Looking up, they saw a strange cloud of black and red form. Anne, Makoto and Morgana came flying out of it moments later. And strangely enough, Yusuke. "Oh," and Izuku gawked, instinctively sticking his arms out to catch one of them. He ended up with Makoto landing not so gently in his arms. He yelped in pain as he fell flat on his back. "Shit, Anne." Ryuji took a step forward, only to pause as Yusuke landed on his feet with surprising grace. He held strong as Anne landed in his arms bridal style. It would have looked rather impressive had Morgana landed smack dab on top of his head not a second later. "Ag. OW," Morgana whined as he bounced off the artist and landed face first into the ground. "Ugh," Yusuke groaned, having fallen to one knee after Morgana hit him. "I thought I was gonna die," Anne muttered before looking up at Yusuke and wiggling. Hey. Will you let go already?" Anne jabbed Yusuke with her elbow until he painfully rolled off of her. "No, oh my god, I didn't mean to push you so hard." "Are you alright?" Anne asked, sitting up from the ground. "Ow," Makoto groaned. She slowly pushed herself up and shook her head before looking down. She was lying on top of a dazed Izuku. Oh, Midori. Are you okay?" "Why yeah, just fine," Izuku mumbled weakly. Once his eyes focused again, he saw Makoto hovering just above him. His cheeks burned and his skin reddened faster than any boiling lobster. SOCLOSE 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 SOCLOSE. Her outfit is skin tight too. What's wrong? Did you? Makoto trailed her eyes down, her voice hitching as she realized what it was. She leaped off of him and stood up, clearing her throat. Sorry about that. And thank you for catching me. Why yeah, don't worry about it, Izuku squeaked when his brain let him produce something other than garbled nonsense. He averted his gaze from her and retreated backward a few steps once he got to his feet. It took seeing Yusuke among them for Izuku to snap him back to his senses. Kitagawa-san, oh. Looks like we brought him along by accident, Makoto sighed, the phantom thieves gathering around the artist waiting for him to regain consciousness. What? Yusuke mumbled, rubbing the bump on his head that Morgana gave him. He slowly sat up but froze when he saw the group standing around him. Who are you all? Calm down, Kitagawa-kun. It's me. Anne said, raising her hands and trying to get his attention. Takamaki-san. Yusuke blinked before looking over at Makoto who stood close by and waved awkwardly. His eyes then shifted to Izuku and Ryuji, raising a brow. Then that would make you two. Where are we? And I don't recall you getting dressed in a catsuit. We're inside Madaram's heart, Anne suggested, unsure how else to put it. Inside Sensei's heart. Yusuke blinked, his eyes darting around as he climbed to his feet and looked around. I'm sorry, Takamaki-san, but are you sure you're feeling okay? She ain't lying. This is how that bastard sees that shack you live in. He's nothing but a greedy money grubbin' bastard, Ryuji explained this time, kicking the ground at his feet. Enough of this rubbish. Kitagawa-kun. Didn't it cross your mind that something was off with Madaram? Anne asked. That's Yusuke would not dare look her in the eye. Kitagawa-san, it might be hard to believe, but it's true. This reality is how Madaram sees the world around him. Specifically that shack you live in, Izuku explained, giving a sympathetic frown. This is his true nature. Yusuke took a moment to look around, his nose wrinkling in disgust. This repulsive world, just who are all of you? Ryuji shrugged. I guess you could say we're like heroes, but not legit or anything. We changed the hearts of rotten crooks who the cops can't or won't bust. Madaram's hurt a lot of people, Kitagawa-san. We've met with a victim and know about several more, Izuku said, his brow hardening. Victims who were silenced by his influence. We're here to answer their call for help. And yours. Yusuke's eyes widened for a moment before his gaze fell to the ground, dejected. If what you say is true, then the sensei I know doesn't exist. It's true, man. You gotta snap out of it, Ryuji pushed, only for Yusuke to turn his back to them. Still, that doesn't take away the fact that he's raised me these past 10 years. My gratitude for him won't disappear so easily, Kitagawa-kun. Think for yourself. Makoto pushed, taking a step forward. Madarum's tossed aside so many pupils. It's only a matter of time until NGH. Yusuke heaved, falling to his knees and gripping his stomach. Kitagawa-san. Are you alright? Izuku knelt beside him in worry. Are you okay? Anne asked, kneeling next to them. I'm trying to be rational about this, but my emotions are overwhelming me, Yusuke admitted solemnly. Sorry, but we don't have time to dawdle. The security level's gone through the roof. Morgana announced. We need to get out of here at once. Alright. Let's head for the safe room, everyone. Izuku said, offering a hand to Yusuke. Here, lean on my shoulder. And no, that's alright, Yusuke shook his head, standing slowly on his own. I'll manage. Izuku watched him with concern, but gave a nod in understanding. Okay. This place is dangerous though, so stay close behind us. We'll get you out of here. With that, ran to the end of the hall before the door. As they approached, Izuku held up a hand, bringing the others to a halt. Where are they? The intruders should be around here somewhere. They heard a shadow bark, causing them to quickly hide behind a bush in the hall. Peering around the fountain, Izuku clicked his tongue when he saw at least 4 shadow guards patrolling around the safe room. What are those things? Yusuke asked, bewildered. No time to explain right now. Come on, there's too many of them that way. I don't want to put Kitagawa-san in danger by starting a fight. We'll have to take the long way out, Izuku told them, waving for the others to follow him down the opposite hall. The others obeyed, quickly following his lead into the next area. Yusuke found himself slowing down as they entered another exhibit. So this is inside of Madarum's heart. A vain museum like this. The others shot him a look of concern, but said nothing, focusing on their escape as they pressed onward. Yusuke thankfully followed, but his eyes never stopped wandering. As they entered the next exhibit hall, his eyes landed on one of the portraits, causing him to come to a full stop. Ah, this painting, he mumbled in recognition. The others came to a stop, looking at the portrait that caught his attention. It was of a young girl in a school uniform, though none of them recognized her. Do you know her? We were thinking these might be the past pupils or something, Anne asked, looking back at Yusuke curiously. Yusuke didn't answer her, instead asking, but why are there paintings of them here? Technically, those aren't paintings. They represent the pupils themselves, Morgana explained, looking up at Yusuke sympathetically. We're pretty sure it's cause Madarum only sees his pupils as objects. And Ryuji started, rubbing his head awkwardly. We saw your portrait here, too, Makoto said as she walked up to his side. Yusuke's eyes narrowed at the painting, but he remained silent, pain and anger crossing his face. Let's go, I've had enough of this place. The others looked at one another for a moment before nodding, Izuku taking the lead again. The trek was surprisingly quiet from then on, but Izuku knew better than to relax just yet. They soon entered the main hall with the statue of Madarum's pupils, but didn't have time to dwell on it as they aimed to make for the exit. But 2 shadows sprouted from the ground just as they reached the double doors, stopping them in their tracks. Darn it, the exit's right there. Morgana hissed. He and the others quickly drew their weapons in preparation for the inevitable fight. Yusuke quickly snapped his head back, eyes widening when he saw none other than Madarum approaching them from behind with 2 shadows at his side. Sensei. Madarum's attire had none of the modesty of its counterpart in reality. His drab jinbei was replaced with a traditional golden kimono that glistened as brightly as the statue before him. His skin was caked in sickly pale makeup, while his lips were dyed blood red with lipstick. His hair was styled into a topknot that resembled a paintbrush that Yusuke had seen in a history book. TCH. Talk about bullshit clothes. First a pervy king and now some kinda shogun, Ryuji spat in disgust. Welcome to the museum of the master artist, Madarum. The shadow introduced himself, giving a conniving grin. Is that really you, sensei? Yusuke mumbled, taking several steps toward the shadow. Izuku quickly stepped up next to him, putting a hand on his chest to keep him from getting too close. Those clothes disgusting. Anne huffed. My usual ragged attire is nothing but an act. Madarum's shadow admitted without hesitation. Besides, a celebrity living in that shack. Feh. I have another home. In a mistress's name, of course. Is there anything honest about you? Izuku pointed the tip of his staff at Madarum. How far do your lies go? Madarum stuck his nose in the air and scoffed. HMPH. Like a child would understand the importance of maintaining my image. I figured his obsession with riches would be bad, but this is Makoto's eyes narrowed, biting the edge of her lip. If the Sayori was stolen, why was it in the storage room? Yusuke asked, catching the shadow's attention. And if you had it the whole time, why would you make copies of it and sell them? If it's really you, sensei, please tell me. Foolish child. You still can't see? Madarum huffed, looking down on his student. The painting's theft was a false rumor I spread. It was all a perfectly calculated staging. Yusuke felt his heart stop. What do you mean? Let me see, how does this sound? The shadow flashed a devious grin as he took a step closer to his student. I found the real painting, but it can't go public. You can have it for a special price, though Madaram let out a cruel laugh, shaking his head. How's that for preferential treatment? Those art snobs will eat it up and pay good cash at that. Yusuke fell to his knees, trembling as his worst fears came to fruition. No, Kitagawa-san. Izuku knelt next to him but kept his staff ready and waiting. The worth of art is purely subjective. Thus, this is a perfectly legitimate business transaction. Madaram declared, looking down his nose at Yusuke. Though I doubt a brat like you would ever come up with such a brilliant scheme. You keep going on about money, this money that, no wonder you ended up with this disgusting museum. Ryuji spat in disgust. You're supposed to be an artist. Aren't you at all ashamed of plagiarizing other people's work? Anne demanded. Art is nothing but a tool. A tool for gaining fame and wealth. Madaram said without a care, his eyes shifting to his pupil. You've helped me a great deal as well, Yusuke, but what about the people who believe in you, the people who see you as a master artist? Yusuke asked in desperation, looking for any redeeming feature from his mentor. Due to your help, I'm willing to tell you this alone. Do not rise up against me if you wish to be successful in the world of art, Madaram warned him. His golden eyes lost any semblance of warmth. Do you think any artist could succeed in this world with my objection to hold them back? Yusuke's trembling worsened, his head sinking lower to the ground. I was under the care of this wretched man. Did you think I took you in out of the kindness of my heart? Ha? Madaram laughed, his grin becoming twisted. Plucking talented yet troubled artists off the street lets me find promising pupils and take their ideas. After all, it's easy to steal the futures of children who can't fight back. I can't believe this. Yusuke looked up at his master, his lip quivering as he tried to sort through the emotions racing through his head. How could you? Izuku exclaimed, his eyes hardening into a fierce glare. Kitagawa-sen has talked about nothing except how much he owes you. How much you've taken care of him. How could you treat that kind of devotion like nothing? Livestock are killed for their hide and meat. This is no different from that, you fool. Madaram declared without an ounce of sympathy. You think a farmer cares for the cattle he slaughters, they fatten them up until they're ripe for the kill. What a bastard, Morgana huffed, hopping up next to Izuku. But I tire of this chat. It's time that you are unforgivable. Madaram stopped, his eyes leering back at Yusuke. It doesn't matter who you are, I won't forgive you. Yusuke declared, pushing up to his feet and giving his master a deathly glare. HMPH. So you repay my keeping you around with ingratitude? You damn brat. Madaram huffed. Guards. Dispose of these thieves at once. Get back, Kitagawa-san. Izuku said, preparing to engage the closest shadow. Get behind us. Anne said. How amusing. The thieves hesitated, looking back at the young artist as he gave an empty laugh. It seems the truth is stranger than fiction, he said. A bemused smile spread across his lips. I didn't want to believe it was true. I had clouded my vision for so long. His expression fell as his head dipped in shame, holding a hand to his face. My eyes were truly blind. Blind and unable to see the true self behind this horrible man. Have you finally come to your senses? Yusuke felt like his head was being gripped and crushed like an eggshell, eyes widening as they turned a shade of gold. He buckled over, gripping the side of his head in pain. How foolishly you averted your eyes from the truth. Yusuke groaned in pain, swaying back and forth as the voice echoed louder in his mind. Izuku's breath hitched at the display before him. No way, Kitagawa-san, he's a deplorable imitation indeed. Best you part from that aspect of yourself. It can't be this guy actually has that potential. Morgana muttered. Yusuke let out an agonizing cry, falling to his knees and gripping the ground. His nails dug so deeply into the floor that his fingers began to bleed as he dragged them across. Let us form a contract. I am thou, thou art I. The world is filled with both beauty and vice. In a flash of blue flame, a mask resembling a kitsune's face appeared on his face. It is time that you teach people which is which. Yusuke slowly rose to his feet, eyes boring into Madaram as the con artist recoiled in fear. Very well. With a swift and graceful tug, Yusuke drew the mask from his face. Come, Gomen. Chapter 26. Yusuke Kitagawa wasn't someone Izuku expected to possess a persona. Yusuke, while somewhat hostile at times, had always been loyal to a fault, even in the face of the worst truths about Madaram. He never seemed the rebellious type, nor one who would stand up in the face of his mentor's shadow. People have their breaking point, of course, but normally they would crumble like Madaram's previous victims, especially after hearing the truth from the horse's mouth. So when Yusuke summoned Gomen, Izuku was genuinely shocked. Speaking of the persona, Gomen was an entirely different beast itself. His skin was as pale as Carter's, and his hair was shaped into a pompadour that jutted from the top of his head. He was dressed in a flowing blue haori emblazoned with dragons, clouds, the number 5 and Ixakawa. The pink leopard-spotted inner lining stood out against the diamond-patterned shirt underneath. Purple and white braided ropes wrapped around his shoulders while a similar belladern rope circled his waist. The jeta he wore were absurdly tall, and a lock choker bound his neck. In his hands was an absurdly long smoking pipe as long as he was tall, decorated with a golden sakura pattern and a razor-edged axe beneath the bowl. Imitations they may be, but together they make a fine spectacle, Yusuke said, his eyes leering across the guards protecting Madaram. Though the flowers of evil blossom, be it known abominations are fated to perish. With a wave of his hand, a frigid wind burst forth from Yusuke's position, flash freezing and shattering all of the shadows surrounding him. Madaram held up his arm as he withstood the wave, gritting his teeth before looking around to see that his guards had been destroyed. HMPH. Who do you think you are? Madaram glared at Yusuke venomously. The punishment for such insolence is death. Guards. Get back here and finish them off. Several black pools formed around Madaram again, sprouting new guards to life. The children who adored you as father. The prospect of your pupils. How many did you trample upon? Yusuke asked as he leveled a heated glare at his former sensei. How many dreams did you exchange for riches? No matter what it takes, I will bring you to justice. And so will we. Izuku declared, stepping up next to Yusuke with his staff in hand. We'll back you up, Kitagawa-san. Yusuke's gaze trailed to Izuku, watching as Makoto stepped up next to him while Morgana, Ryuji and Anne took up his right side. Yusuke gave a determined grin and nodded, shifting his gaze back forward. Thank you. Now, let us begin. Bring it on. Madaram huffed, taking several steps back as his guards' bodies melted apart, the black ooze quickly forming several familiar shadows of Tapa Tengu and one unfamiliar and large beast. Its hulking body was covered in striped yellow fur save for its white mane. Its shadowed face was featureless save for two beady red eyes and a fang-filled maw. It marked the floor with large pointed claws, letting out a low growl as it glared down at Yusuke and the thieves. You intruders will pay for insulting Lord Madaram. Get on your knees and beg. It said, taking a step toward the group with a hiss. I learned much from you, Madaram. In order to see authenticity, then one must be dispassionately realistic, said Yusuke, his eyes hovering back to his former master before going back to the shadow. He put a hand over his face and an arm over his stomach, assuming a more dramatic pose. With Gomen by my side, I can now ascertain your true self without any reservations. Silence. The large shadow growled, raising a clawed hand and attempting to slam it down on Yusuke. The artist quickly dodged to the side, avoiding any damage as he pointed forward. Strike, Gomen. The persona raised its pipe up and swung it around like a blade, slicing into the shadow's hide. The large beast groaned and stumbled backward. What power. Yusuke certainly no pushover. Said Morgana. Well, come on, gang. We can't let him show us up, can we? Heh, you're right about that. Ryuji grinned, shifting his gaze to Izuku. What are the orders, leader? Back up Kitagawa-san. That shadow seems strong, so it'll take all of us to take it down. I'll take out the smaller shadows so we can focus on that one alone, Izuku ordered, earning nods from the others. He reached up for his mask, preparing to switch to Jack Frost, with a knowledge of Kappa Tengu's weakness to ice. There is no need. Allow me, Yusuke said, causing the five to look at him in surprise. Narrowing his eyes at the crowd of shadows now flying at them, Yusuke stomped his foot down. Feel the rage that was once frozen within my heart. Omen mimicked his master, stamping the ground with all the theatrics of a kabuki actor. Pillars of ice erupted from its feet, engulfing each of the Kappa Tengu. Izuku and the others gawked in awe, amazed at the natural power that Yusuke and his persona possessed. Don't give them a moment to recover. Let's finish them off. Makoto said, gripping the knuckle dusters in her palms before rushing forward. Right. Everyone, together. Izuku quickly followed suit with Anne and Ryuji doing the same. Jumping in the air, the thieves slammed their weapons into the partially frozen shadows, quickly destroying them before they could recover. You brats won't get away with that. The lone but largest shadow roared, lunging at the four from behind. Before it could get close, a gust of wind and ice smashed into its side, knocking it off balance, though it remained on all fours. Nice try. You're not going to be blindsiding us so easily. Morgana scoffed, pointing his scimitar at the shadow mockingly. I won't allow you to hurt those who have shown me my error in judgment. Come at me. Yusuke exclaimed, a katana now formed at his side. It won't matter either way. You'll all die here for insulting Lord Madaram. The shadow hissed, slamming a fist into the ground. Black energy rippled towards them in a wave, tearing up the carpet and shaking the nearby exhibits. Watch out, everyone. Izuku warned, raising his staff and arms up as the wave hit him. The visage of Carter's upper body formed around him, reducing the damage to an insignificant level to Izuku. While the others had blocked in time, the struggle with the damage they took was move apparent. TCH. This guy ain't a joke, Ryuji huffed, rubbing his forearms in minor pain. With all 6 of us though, I'm sure we'll take him down quick, Anne said confidently, placing a fist over her chest. Don't let your guard down. It's obvious that this opponent's tougher than most, Makoto reminded her, assuming a fighting stance. We just need to exploit its weakness and strike once it's been knocked down, Izuku suggested, reaching up to his mask. Anything, Mona. It resisted ice easily enough, and the wind only seemed to deal moderate damage, Morgana said as the thieves cautiously circled their opponent. Let's test everything out. Skull, Panther. Your turn. Said Izuku, who rushed at the shadow with his staff in hand. Allow me to assist. Yusu quickly rushed to the opposite side of the shadow. Their enemy whirled around as it struggled to pick a target. With a small grunt, it raised both arms, hoping to slam them down on both thieves at the same time. Don't even think about it. A bolt of lightning coursed through the shadow, briefly stunning it, though it didn't seem to be super effective. Lightning's out. Your turn, Panther. Makoto said, summoning Johanna and revving her up as she prepared to move. Got it. Dance, Carmen. Anne threw off her mask, her red-skinned persona taking shape and lashing out with several balls of flame. This time, the response was immediate. The shadow roared in pain, falling on its back as the flames seared its fur. Nice, Panther. Now let's do it. Izuku called out, he and Yusuke jumping up and bringing their weapons down upon their prone foe. To Izuku's surprise, the shadow didn't disappear. It was weakened, but attempted to bat them away, rolling on its stomach and forcing the 2 to fall back out of its range. You little brats. It snarled, pushing off the ground and clubbing a fist down at Izuku, who narrowly avoided it and rolled across the ground. Darn it. Looks like we need a bit more to finish it off. Morgana cursed. That's not an issue. Let's finish this. Makoto revved up her persona again before speeding down the room past Izuku. The Hana's front tire crackled with orange energy as she accelerated toward the shadow now. Vajra blast. Makoto exclaimed, lifting the front of her bike up before slamming the tire directly into the shadow's chest. A burst of power exploded, causing Makoto and her persona to bounce back in the air, while the shadow was sent tumbling back. I landed. Yusuke declared, drawing his mask again and summoning his persona. Rend him, Gomen. His persona flew forward, rearing its pipe back again, and this time slicing right through the shadow. The monster roared one last time, thrashing about as it melted into black ooze and evaporated into nothingness. Gomen faded away as the mask rematerialized across Yusuke's face. But the shadow's gone, Madaram was the only one left. Haisuke took several steps toward his former master, Madaram's shadow, recoiling at the murderous expression in his pupil's eyes. But that fear vanished as Yusuke's knee gave out beneath him. The palace ruler rediscovered his courage at the sight, glaring down at Yusuke heatedly. Yusuke, you've just thrown your bright future down the drain. I'll destroy any chance you had of becoming an artist. Madaram. Yusuke growled, stumbling another step forward. You'll forever rue the day you dared to defy me. Madaram huffed, putting his hands inside of his kimono sleeves and turning away from the group. Wait. Get back here. Yusuke growled, attempting to move forward again, but all of his muscles locked up at once. Be damn it, my body won't move, be careful, Kitagawa-kun. You're way too drained after all that fighting and summoning your persona, Anne said, putting a hand on his shoulder as she knelt next to him. Following him won't fix anything either, Izuku said, kneeling at his other side and offering a shoulder. Come on, Kitagawa-san. We'll get you out of here. Yusuke looked between the others, biting his bottom lip as his eyes trailed to the ground. What a disgrace I am. Come on, man. They're right. Let's get out of here, said Ryuji. Yusuke was silent for a moment before nodding, accepting Izuku's help to move around. They took him to the front lobby, seating him on one of the lounging couches to give him a moment to rest. Keep a lookout, guys. We'll rest for a bit, but we're still not safe here, Morgana said, his eyes darting around cautiously. I just need a moment and I'll be ready to move, Yusuke sighed, his eyes staring down at his hands. You've known the whole time, haven't you? Anne asked, sharing the thought on everyone's mind. I'm no fool, strange people have been coming by the house for years. And the plagiarism is a daily occurrence, Yusuke admitted, his head dipping further with his words. But who would want to admit that the person they owed their life to was doing such terrible things? Why didn't you leave, Kitagawa-kun? Anne asked in minor confusion. Well, he was the one who created Sayuri. On top of that, I still owed him a great debt, Yusuke explained. I never knew my father and my mother passed away in an accident when I was 3. That's when sensei took me in. Apparently, he helped my mother while she was still alive. At least, that's what I heard. Heard? Anne asked, sounding doubtful. To be honest, I don't know much about my mother either. I have very little memory of her. Madaram was like a father to me, but he changed. Yusuke's face contorted in disgust. To think he would treat the Sayuri, the very foundation of his art, like that. You've been through a lot, huh? Ryuji said with some sympathy. I thought things might have been difficult for you, but I hadn't realized how deep it ran, Makoto admitted, looking at Yusuke with a small frown. When you had mentioned the plagiarism deep down, I knew you were right. That's why I so vehemently denied you for that. I'm sorry. I was simply running from the truth. Yusuke's eyes trailed up to Izuku. Izuku gave a sad smile, but nodded. It's okay. I can't imagine how tough it must have been for you. He walked in front of Yusuke, getting on one knee in front of him so that they were eye level. We're going to change his heart and make him confess to his crimes so he never hurts anyone else again. And I think we could use you as a member of this team. How the others blurted, looking at Izuku in shock. Even Yusuke's eyes lit up in confusion, but Izuku remained firm. Before more could be said though, batches of black ooze sprouted from the ground behind the couch, several guards materializing in front of them. Crap. We gotta go. Ryuji said as he and the others stood up in alert. When did my clothes change? Yusuke distractedly remarked, feeling the mask on his face. And now's not the time for that. Come on, Kitagawa-san. Izuku said, grabbing his arm as he and the others bolted for the exit. I see, so it's because of that your PE teacher had a change of heart. I heard the rumors about the phantom thieves who steal hearts, but I imagined it was just a vengeful student with a powerful quirk. Yusuke said. After escaping Madaram's palace and putting distance between them and the shack, the thieves were resting at the diner Anne and Ryuji visited the other day in Shibuya. Yes, strangely enough, it's a lot more complicated than one person with a quirk, Izuku admitted with a shy laugh. I'm sure it seems hard to believe, but it's all true. The palace, its ruler and the relation it has to Madaram, Makoto said. Yes, I see very little room for doubt, honestly. After everything I've seen, it would be foolish to let common sense convince me otherwise. Yusuke leaned on his elbows. So, your plan with Madaram-sensei, Madaram, is to make him go through a change of heart, correct? That's right. We're planning to go back into the palace the next chance we get, said Izuku. This might seem sudden, but after seeing you summon a persona, I thought it would only be fair to give you the chance to join us in putting a stop to Madaram. You took us totally off guard when you asked him that, Ryuji said, raising a brow at Yusuke. But I'm fine with it if you guys are. We're gonna take him down either way. Yeah, I can't imagine taking that from you would be fair. I'm okay with it, Anne nodded. Are you sure you're up for that, though? It's going to be dangerous, Makoto asked thoughtfully. Yes. If you'll have me, I would like to join you in the fight as a phantom thief as well, Yusuke answered without hesitation. Had I faced reality sooner, this could have been avoided. I must put a stop to this for the sakes of the artists whose future were ruined by him. That is the most civil thing I can do for the man who, in some manner, was my father. Civil, huh? Anne muttered, understanding his intent. Just know that there's still a huge risk of causing a mental shutdown if we screw up, Morgana said, popping his head out of Izuku's bag. We have ways to prevent that, but it isn't foolproof. Are you okay with that? Madaram is a man who has the art world under his thumb. He has connections to many organizations. If someone like me raises my voice, it will only be snuffed out, and I doubt that this is a case that heroes can do anything within their power to put a stop to either. We have no other option. Yusuke rationalized. Kitagawa-kun Anne began, sparing a look at the others. With a quick nod in agreement from the others, Morgana spoke up first. It's a deal, then. Welcome to the team. Looks like we've got a new member of the Phantom Thieves. Anne smiled. I hope we get along. First Makoto, and now Kitagawa-kun. Who knew we'd get 2 more members so quickly? Yes, this turn of events has been strangely fortunate, said Makoto, offering Yusuke a smile. I only gained my persona yesterday as well, to be honest. I suppose we'll be the rookies in this situation. Just try not to slow us down, new guy. Ryuji chuckled as he gave a thumbs up. I'll do my utmost to keep up, Yusuke replied. I look forward to working with you, Kitagawa-san. Izuku said kindly until another thought sprang up in his mind. He nervously ran a hand through his hair. Ooh, and sorry about tricking you. That was the only way to get where we needed, I understand. Though for Takamaki-san to go so far as posing nude, Yusuke's eyes trailed over to Anne. I must say, I'm impressed by your commitment, how daring. Hey, don't look at me like that. It wasn't my idea. It was theirs. Anne bore into Ryuji from across the table. Ryuji raised his hands defensively. That's not my fault. He was the one going on and on about painting you nude. Well, regardless of what happened, we're past all that now, right? Makoto suggested with an awkward chuckle, looking at Yusuke. You're not planning to keep that up? Oh, no. I still haven't given up on that, Yusuke casually replied. Give it up. Anne snapped when she saw the smug grin on his face. Oh, but that reminds me. I wonder what's going on with the real Madaram right now. Especially after we left like that. Actually, I contacted him before coming here. He believes I'm still pursuing Takamaki-san and Naijima-san. And as you all said, he knows nothing about his shadow, Yusuke explained for them. What did he say? Asked Anne. He was complaining how his security company couldn't even catch 2 girls. However, he's still furious about what happened. He said he would take legal action against everyone. The thieves all winced at the implications. That's not good, Izuku muttered. Ryuji sighed. Talk about completely on guard. Makoto chewed on the skin of her thumb. I'm guessing he would try and charge us with unlawful entry and defamation of character. Still, this seems like a really desperate move. Do you think he's hiding anything else? Anne asked. I'm not sure. But what I do know is that any action he might take won't be until after the exhibit is over. He can't afford to have a scandal like this coming to light right now, Yusuke suggested. Right when I think the talk about being a nude model is over, this happens, Anne groans, dipping her head down in exasperation. We'll just have to force the change of heart before the exhibit ends to avoid this legal action thing. Said Morgana. Now we know our time limit at least. Let's make sure not to waste our chance. Yusuke turned his attention to Morgana, tilting his head. I've been meaning to ask, but what exactly is this? Morgana. He's a cat, Ryuji said, raising a brow at the obvious question. But it can talk, Yusuke pointed out. You have a problem with that? Morgana asked. No, not really. Yusuke dismissed rather easily, prompting wide-eyed looks from the others. Why not? Ryuji blurted in surprise. Anne laughed sheepishly. He's just on a different wavelength than everyone else. Were you thinking of drawing me? If so, you better bring out my best side. Morgana said with a feline smirk on his face. Yusuke suddenly pushed off the table and leaned toward Morgana with his hand outstretched. Hey, don't touch me, like before, pressing the server buzzer and sitting back down. I was thinking of ordering some black bean jelly, Yusuke said randomly. He probably got that thought from the black cat, Ryuji deadpanned. Wait, Yusuke gasped, looking around at the others. I didn't bring any money, never mind, he's just weird, Anne blanched, earning nods from the rest of the team. We certainly seem to have quite the character in our newest member, Makoto said with an awkward smile. Ah, you're back. Pretty late too, Sojiro greeted with a small smirk, cleaning the counter with a rag. Walk another lady friend home? And no, Sakura-san. I told you it's not like that, Izuku said, a blush dusted his cheeks. You know, it looks more suspicious when you react like that. Sojiro chuckled when he saw Izuku flinch. Maybe that nice guy act is paying off. You're smoother than I thought. I seriously doubted, Izuku mumbled, eyes trailing to the side. His attention was roused when he heard his phone ring in his pocket, pulling it out to open the group chat. Ryuji. Legal action, that ain't good. Izuku. I know. That could mean a lot of trouble for everyone involved. If that happens, I'd get sent to juvenile hall even in the best case scenario. Despite his honest reply, Izuku wasn't afraid. There was a bit of concern for whether or not he might press charges earlier than expected, but that had full confidence in the team stopping him long before the end of the exhibit. Anne. Forget being expelled. We'd all end up arrested. Koto-san. We won't let that happen. We have plenty of time until the exhibit ends. We'll finish this long before then. I have full confidence in all of us. Izuku. Koto-san is right. Let's keep our heads up and focus on the mission. Madaram won't press any charges after we've changed his heart. Ryuji. Yeah, you guys are right. Thanks, I needed to hear that. I ain't gonna worry with you guys having my back. Anne. Same here. And with Kitagawa-kun joining us, there's no way we can fail. Heh. Nice to see you wielding the title of leader so well, Morgana smirked. But even with our increased number, let's not get careless. We still have quite a bit left in the palace to go before we reach the treasure, I think. Don't worry, I won't drop my guard. I want to make this go as well as possible. We won't let Madaram suffer a mental breakdown, either, Izuku nodded with confidence, heading for the stairs and going straight to bed. They had a long day ahead of them. Oh, yeah. We haven't decided on the new recruit's code name yet, said Morgana. The group didn't waste a moment after school was over, immediately convening at the train station before heading into the palace. It has to be Kitsune. You know, with the Kitsune mask and everything. Anne immediately suggested. Ryuji grinned. Hell yeah, that really leaves an impression. Seems fitting to me, Makoto nodded, tilting her head to the side as she held her chin in thought. Are you referring to me? Yusuke asked, turning around to look at the others. Yeah. When we're infiltrating palaces, we go by code names so that we don't affect the cognition in some way by constantly saying our names, Izuku explained. Do you have any ideas for a code name? Yusuke hummed in thought, eyes closing as he held his jaw in hand. If I were to pick, I'd like to be called Da Vinci. Nope, Ryuji immediately dismissed. Yusuke winced at how quickly he was shut down. Well, you got the mask like Anne said, not to mention the tail. Okay, I got it. From now on, you'll be called a Burra Age. Not happening, Makoto and Anne muttered, lame smiles on their lips as they let out small chuckles. Yeah, what was that about? Morgana laughed, shaking his head. Well, if you don't mind my input, how about Fox? Izuku suggested. Not bad, Ryuji nodded. What do you say, Fox? Morgana asked. It's acceptable, Yusuke agreed easily enough. Great, let's go then. We got some ground to cover. Ryuji said, earning nods from the rest. Thankfully not too much, Izuku said, pulling out his phone. Okay, I'm going to take us to the safe room by the door. Is everyone ready? Safe room? Yusuke tilted his head in question. You'll see in a moment. Go ahead and take us in, Hiro, Makoto said. Izuku nodded, tapping the marked locations on his phone's map. Beginning navigation. The world around them began to warp again, similar to their arrival, their surroundings closing in and taking the shape of a more confined room. Yusuke looked around in awe, stroking his chin curiously. Fascinating, so you're able to travel through the palace at will. Not just anywhere, though. It usually only works with safe rooms and the front entrance, and we have to be in one of those locations to use it, Izuku explained, stuffing his phone away. Okay, let's go. We've still got a lot of ground to cover. The thieves moved out, running through the golden hall again and heading for the door they had previously opened. Hell yeah, looks like it's still open. Ryuji said, looking at Anne and Makoto. See? It was all worth it in the end, right? Yeah, I guess, Anne mumbled somewhat bitterly. It's good to know that we won't have to worry about it closing again, Makoto said. What are you all talking about? Yusuke asked in wonder. And nothing to worry about. We can tell you later. Come on, let's go. Izuku led the way again, getting ahead of the others. As they entered the next hall, Izuku soon spotted another shadow guarding the entrance. Instead of hide and wait, Izuku picked up his pace the moment its back was facing them, giving it little time to react as he closed in. Leaping on its back, Izuku ripped its mask away, causing a black puddle to form and sprout two of the same shadow, Kurapikuru. Panther, hit them with fire. Izuku ordered. On it. Dance, Carmen. Anne drew her mask away, her busty persona taking shape above her and unleashing a blaze that hit both shadows, causing both to writhe in pain. Alright, finish them off. We'll save holdups for when we're in new areas. Izuku said, earning nods of agreement from his team. We landed. Makoto and Yusuke were the first to leap forward, Makoto's arm hardening into metal as she reared her arm back. With single, swift strikes, the shadows were disposed of, black ooze draining into the ground. Man. Even though the big shadows get tough, the small ones get easier and easier to deal with, Ryuji said, rolling his arm as he was able to relax in that fight. Don't drop your guard. Even the smaller ones can still deal bad damage if they hit you with the element your persona can't handle, Morgana warned. Makoto and Yusuke straightened out, putting their weapons away and looking to one another in thanks. I must say, your quirk does draw my interest. Are you able to shift your body into another form? Yusuke asked in a way, yeah. Though my primary power is to absorb matter and energy and use it at will, Makoto explained, holding up her right arm to demonstrate her point. Fascinating. It seems that your quirk is quite useful for combat. Sadly, mine isn't something so capable for battle, Yusuke said, crossing his arms in thought. What's your quirk, Fox? Izuku asked, turning his head back to him in interest as they started to walk forward, though remaining cautious. I can produce ink from the pores in my hand. Namely my fingertips, Yusuke explained, pulling off his glove and demonstrating by letting ink slowly drip down from his fingers. Oh, wow. I suppose that's the perfect quirk for an aspiring artist, huh? Morgana chuckled. Yusuke frowned as he put his glove back on. I suppose, but Madram forbade me from using it when painting. Huh? Why would he go and do something like that? Ryuji asked. He said that it was to keep me from feeling entitled as an artist and to remain at level with others. But after all this it makes me question the true intent behind it, Yusuke sighed. The others remained silent, sharing looks at one another as they couldn't help but agree. Why would Madram go and do something like that? Izuku wondered, his eyes drifting around as they entered the next hall. His eyes landed on a pamphlet stationed against the wall, coming to a stop before walking up to it. Hey, look. I think we can get a map from this. Ah, good eye. Let's take a look at what we're working with, Morgana said, he and the others huddling up behind Izuku as he opened a pamphlet up for all of them to see. Looks like we've still got some ways to go, Makoto tilted her head, looking over the layout closely. At least we can pinpoint where the treasure is being kept. Anne said positively. Quite right. And considering it would likely be in the innermost depths of the palace, Morgana scanned through the map before touching his paw in a secluded area on it. This place looks suspicious. Definitely like something that's been cut off from the rest for a purpose. To get there, we'll have to go through the lounge and the gallery, Yusuke pointed out the paths linked to it. Just remember, rookies. The deeper in we go, the tighter security will be. That means more guards and stronger ones, Morgana reminded them. Alright, everyone. Stay close and approach enemies with caution. We're going to set up our infiltration route today. Izuku declared with a tightened fist in front of his chest. Right. The others agreed, falling in line next to him as he started to jog forward. As they reached the next room, they found the gallery to be blocked off by a security gate. Izuku quickly took a detour, going down the right hall to take the long way in. Passing into another room, Izuku saw two paths before them, but quickly picked up on one being blocked off by lasers on his right. Going left, Izuku slowed the group down as he saw another shadow patrolling the next room. Though Izuku noted the fact that it was in the shape of a female secretary rather than a guard. On my go, Izuku whispered back, putting up 3 fingers and counting down. The moment he finished, he rushed forward, jumping at the shadow from behind and ripping off its mask. Izuku watched 2 pairs of the water nymph and Huapo rise from the ooze. Skull. Izuku called out, reaching for his mask and summoning Jack Frost. Already on it. Ryuji answered, whipping his mask aside as Captain Kidd formed above him. Get wrecked. Ice and lightning shot out around Izuku and Ryuji, blasting the Huapo and water nymphs respectively. Each shadow was knocked on its ass with its weakness exploited. Alright, we got him down. Take him out, hero. Ryuji asked as he and the others quickly surrounded their targets with their guns raised. Makoto and Yusuke's own firearms had taken the shape of a single-action revolver and an assault rifle respectively. Wait. Let me try negotiating this time, Izuku said, walking up to the water nymph. He lowered his gun and stared it directly in the eyes. If you become my mask, we'll spare you. Okay, done. Water nymph immediately agreed. What? I know when I'm beat. Better to work with someone strong like you guys than get destroyed here, right? Oh, okay then. Welcome to the team, Izuku nodded, watching as the shadow rose up. I am Asparus. I look forward to being by your side. The shadow declared, its body turning into a mask before being absorbed into the one on Izuku's face. With that, the other shadows disappeared, escaping with their lives. Well, that was easy, Ryuji said with a chuckle as he and the others moved to join Izuku again. It seems I still have a great deal to learn, Yusuke said with interest, tilting his head to the side. Can we all possess multiple personas? Nope, that's just our leader. But let's not dwell on that, we should keep moving, Morgana suggested, causing the others to silently agree and move forward. Entering the next room and avoiding another shadow, the group finally entered the main gallery. Shadows patrolled deeper in the gallery, but Izuku could see ways around them. But he could also see several standing laser alarms scattered through the hall as well. There are so many I'm kinda afraid of bumping into one just by accident, Anne admitted, eyes scanning the hall nervously. It's okay. Stick close behind me, and I'll make sure to guide us past the lasers, Izuku said, activating his third eye to take a look at the active lasers. He could understand Anne's concern, seeing so many covering the hall. As he looked around, he made a mental note of the giant pictures adorning the far wall lit up. We'll have to check those out if we come back around. We'll leave it up to you, hero, Morgana encouraged. Don't rush. We don't want to make any dumb mistakes, Makoto said to everyone. Okay, let's go, Izuku started to move, pointing out which lasers had gaps they could slip through. As they continued, they were forced into battle with more shadows. They were mostly painless and allowed Izuku to claim 2 more personas, in the form of Mikami and Inugami. He was just about out of room to claim any more. Once they reached the other side of the gallery, Izuku sighed when he found the exit blocked off there as well. Looks like we need to find another way around here, too, how inconvenient. There's even a security room on the other side as well, Yusuke pointed out for the others. I'm sure that if we can reach it, we'll be able to shut off the security in here like before, Morgana said. Yeah, but getting there's gonna be a pain by itself, Ryuji sighed, tapping his foot impatiently. Well, let's go back around this way. There's something I wanted to check out, Izuku told them, rousing their interest. Izuku led them to the gallery's main wall, standing in front of the giant paintings to observe them again. They're so huge, Anne mumbled in awe. Indeed. It bears such a bizarre texture as well. It's almost like I could just slip inside, Yusuke began as he reached out to touch it. He jumped when he felt his hand pass through the canvas with little resistance. What, are you alright, Makoto asked, looking between him and the painting. Why yes, I'm fine, it's just I actually passed through the painting, Yusuke explained, staring up at it in shock. I thought these paintings were strange, let's go inside. Maybe we can use this to our advantage, Izuku suggested to the others. It does seem like our only option at the moment. Lead the way. Morgana agreed. Izuku entered the painting first, finding that they were able to walk among the details of the painting. How dare you trample upon my bamboo garden with those grimy feet? You won't leave here alive. The group jumped when they heard Madaram's voice, eyes darting around as they expected to be attacked at a moment's notice. Where's that coming from? Ryuji asked in panic, looking around. Calm down. I think it's just Madaram's thoughts. It's probably just a subconscious reaction to us entering here, said Morgana suggested, allowing the others to relax somewhat. Yusu could only lower his head in disappointment. Hey, look, the painting goes past the edge of the frame, Izuku pointed out, beginning to walk toward the opposite end they entered. As he and the others walked through it, they soon found themselves within another frame, welcomed by a different scenery. Oh, we're in the picture that was above it, Anne pointed out, looking outside of the picture over the gallery. So this space is not only one, but multiple paintings, Yusu guessed with interest. You're telling me they're all connected? But which one goes where? Ryuji asked, scratching his head. I'll see if I can pinpoint where we can connect with other paintings if we need to. Come on, Izuku said, leading them toward the edge of the painting. He hopped out, landing safely on the edge of the wall that stuck out with the others following close behind. The nerve of that man to become angry because he thinks we are the ones dirtying his heart. The one who has sullied the very nature of art itself has no right to say such things. Yusuke finally vented the moment he was out of the picture, earning concerned looks from the rest of the team as he trembled with anger. Save the emotions for later. We have to keep moving, Morgana advised, not wanting Yusuke to dwell too much on what happened. Yusuke took a deep breath and slowly nodded, silently falling in with the others as they started to move. There's a vent here. Izuku announced, getting down to his knees and crawling inside with the others close behind. Morgana quickly hopped in after him. Hey, don't go staring at my butt, Ryuji said, sparing a look back at Yusuke directly as before beginning to crawl. What are you talking about? Yusuke raised a brow in question, soon following in behind him. At least I don't have to worry about getting stared at with them ahead of us, Anne sighed, leaning down to go in. I can see how that might worry you in that outfit. Though I have found myself to be a bit self-conscious in my own considering how tight it is, Makoto coughed into her hand before she followed Anne in. Izuku crawled out the other side, stepping to the edge of the balcony so the others had room to come out. His eyes scanned across the room, noting a treasure chest at one end and a large shadow at the other, standing guard in front of the security office they needed to get into. Oh, a treasure. Izuku clamped a hand over Morgana's mouth, placing a finger to his lips and then motioning to the guard. Oh, sorry, Morgana mumbled in embarrassment. Looks like we gotta go through that guy to get to the office, huh? Ryuji asked, crouching next to Izuku on the platform. He looks really tough, though, we should be fine. We've dealt with guards like that before, Makoto suggested, gripping her knuckle dusters tightly. We can't fight recklessly. Yeah, we can still catch him by surprise, too. I have an idea, Izuku said, smiling at the others. The stationary shadow stood vigilant in place. It wouldn't leave its post for anything so long as the intruders were inside the museum. It would stop at nothing until they were you. Excuse me. The shadow's head swiveled forward as he spotted a head of green poke its head out from inside the lounge room. Do you think you could help me find the security office? One of the intruders. Get over here. The shadow demanded, stomping forward. Izuku answered that with a small yelp before ducking back behind the wall. Back here. The shadow finally left its station in pursuit of Izuku, stomping into lounge area and pointing its baton at Izuku. Surrender yourself, intruder. You're not making it any farther than here. You'll have to make me. Izuku declared, reaching a hand up to his mask. With pleasure. The guard's body fell into black ooze, immediately reforming as the same shadow that had taken Makoto hostage and had tried to stop him and Ryuji at the door a few days ago. Lord Madaram will have your head. Now. Izuku called out, causing the shadow to hesitate. It looked up to see the rest of the phantom thieves descending upon it from the terrace. You're done now. Makoto roared, summoning Johanna and searing its face with nuclear energy. The shadow ate the attack before it could stop her, flying back into the wall and falling to its knees. Alright, everyone. Let's do it. Izuku called out, pulling his mask off and summoning Succubus. Mar and Karen. Rather than attempting to inflict damage, Succubus blew a kiss at the shadow, a small wave blasting forth and washing over it. What is worm? The shadow stumbled, its mind thrown into chaos from the brainwashing. Nice job, hero. Our turn. Morgana said, he and the others quickly summoning their personas all at once and dishing out their respective elemental attacks. The shadow didn't stand a chance, immediately being overwhelmed by the wave of elements that crashed into it. Its body blew up into a brilliant ball of energy, evaporating into thin air before their eyes. As the dust cleared and the shadow faded away, a moment passed before the thieves relaxed, each one smiling at each other in accomplishment. Good job, everyone. That went really well, Izuku said as he moved to join the others. I must say, that was quite an effective plan. Simple, but effective, Yusuke praised. Man, we are just plowing through these guys now. Ryuji grinned ear to ear. Even I have to admit, it really does feel like we're unstoppable right now, Makoto said with a small smirk. I would say don't get cocky, but I'd say we're in a really good place right now when it comes to dealing with threats, Morgana said with a nod. You've all learned well. It's good to see that our newest members are able to keep up with us, too. Yeah. We rock. Anne cheered, pointing a finger at the security office. Come on, let's not stop here. Let's blow through this palace. Nothing can stop us now. Sanuva, I'm getting sick of seeing this damn camel over and over again. Ryuji fumed with irritation. Having pushed deeper into the palace and getting past both shadow and blockades, the thieves soon found themselves at a small roadblock. One in the shape of multiple gigantic paintings and a strange cycle of paths that kept taking them back to the start of the whole thing. Oh, shut up. Complaining about it's not going to make it go faster, Anne groaned, no less annoyed than her teammate at being put back at the start for the fourth time. Listening to Madaram's constant excuses from each painting didn't do anything but piss the majority of the team off. Alright, everyone relax. After this, we should be done with the last of it hopefully. Makoto tried to reason, earning small grumbles from both blondes. I suppose dealing with shadows is not the only obstacle that we must face as phantom thieves. The palace itself serves as an adversary, Yusuke said with an impressed tone as he held his chin in thought. You have no idea how true that can be sometimes, Morgana groaned. See, come on, guys. Almost done. Once we get through here, we won't be too far from the treasure, okay? Izuku encouraged, trying to remain positive for the others. As he hopped from painting to painting, having noted each path and where they led, Izuku passed through each scenery and avoided each wrong path. He made it to the greenery of the third frame, climbing up the short rocky background, and went through the final passage at the top. With a shared breath of relief, the group welcomed the sight of the final portrait. Beauty is nothing but a mirage, here we go again, Ryuji grumbled, he and the others waiting for him to finish speaking one last time. Transforming that into money is true happiness. My mansion, my lavish lifestyle, my place among the chosen few. Those things are the true art. So running your 8-liter out of a rundown shack was simply an act after all, Yusuke said in a weak voice. How foolish I was to be fooled for so long, Fox-Anne muttered, unsure what to say. This world has deemed quirks and heroes to be the greatest beauty of this world. The thieves blinked, raising their heads when they realized that Madaram's voice wasn't done. But what heroes can claim to be my equal in notoriety? I, who was cursed with a worthless quirk, have risen above all of them. Quirk cannot bring the happiness I have attained. Damn them all. Madaram's voice finally died out, the thieves now looking at each other in surprise. Damn, wasn't expecting that. So now he's got a gripe against quirks, too. Ryuji tapped his foot in thought. This is sort of like Kamoshida was, remember? Except I guess Kamoshida's hate was directed more at UA. Rather than quirks and heroes in general, Anne pointed out. It's no surprise that people like Kamoshida or Madaram would hold grudges like that with the way the world treats quirks and heroes, I suppose, Makoto reasoned, holding her chin in thought. Not that it's any sort of excuse for what they've done. Yeah. They would rather climb over others just to get their way. All because they felt cursed with what they got, Izuku huffed, the idea disgusting him more and more. So that's why he forbid me from using my quirk out of his own jealousy, Yusuke snapped furiously, hands gripping the material of his pants. All of his works, simply created for fortune and spite. Not once did he even mention his supposed love of art. These are no paintings. They're just meaningless self-assertions placed into picture frames. What is Madaram's quirk? Izuku asked shyly, unsure if this was the appropriate time to ask, though. It's something rather unbecoming. He can sprout eyes on other parts of his body, though it makes him unable to see through his main eyes when doing so, Yusuke huffed, rubbing a hand against his face. You, Anne wrinkled her nose in disgust. Yeah, I can see how that's kin to useless, Ryuji mumbled in understanding. Well, in certain cases, I'm sure a quirk like that could be used for espionage. The ability to have different fields of vision might help when you're worried about getting side-blinded. Izuku couldn't stop himself from thinking up its possibilities. Even so, not many would see it as useful, said Makoto. Still. I'm definitely interested in seeing how the change of heart will alter his personality, Morgana commented, though silence was his only answer to the thought. The group proceeded to the next hall, another small gallery mirroring one of the earlier areas of the exhibit. After quickly dealing with several more shadows and cracking open several awkwardly placed chests, Anne and Makoto were somewhat annoyed to let the boys enter the ladies' room and nervous to enter the guys' room. Izuku led them into the next big area on the map. Though as they entered a new dazzling gold path, the team couldn't help but gawk as they took in their surroundings. What the shit? What the hell is up with this place? Ryuji blurted out. Setting aside the blinding amount of gold, the landscape around them had completely opened up into a mess of inverted and winding staircases, similar in appearance to the lithograph print Relativity by M.C. Escher. There's so much gold that it's hurting my eyes. Anne's eyes squinted, trying to adjust to the gaudy room's flare. The distortion is really bad here. It doesn't even match up with what's on our map, Morgana said, looking around in concern. This place is barely holding up. So we must ascertain the truth with our eyes alone, Yusuke said, scanning around the staircases curiously. There must be a trick to how this place works. Let's take a closer look around, Makoto said, earning nods from the others before they moved forward. They descended the distorted paths and were forced to jump down from one staircase to the next. They followed the stairs as far as they could go before having to jump over a ledge to the next path. A shadow was patrolling, but it was quickly dealt with. As they continued on, they found a large blue door at the end of the staircase. Quickly going inside, the group ground to a halt as they found that they were in a completely different part of the room. Holy crap. Did we just warp or something? Ryuji asked, looking around in panic. It would seem that the paths beyond these apertures are distorted in the same way as the rest of the room, said Yusuke. And here I thought we were done going through weird room puzzles after the paintings. Anne sighed tiredly, feeling a migraine coming on. Despite the minor complaints, the group pushed forward, going through another blue passageway that warped them to another part of the room as well. As they continued onto a fork at the center of the room, they came to a stop when they spotted two paintings of the Sayori sitting at there. Huh? What are these doing here? Anne asked, tilting her head in question. They're just an illusion of the palace, Morgana said, looking at them with little interest. But they're just counterfeits, right? Why would he have them here? Anne looked at Morgana. They also seem to have some differences between them. The most notable thing being the color of their shirts, Makoto pointed out, the others taking another look to confirm her words. One of the Sayoris had a blue shirt while the other a red shirt. So one's fake and one isn't. The hell? Ryuji mumbled in confusion. Maybe it has something to do with this room? Izuku suggested thoughtfully. Maybe if we can determine which one's real, we'll open something up. You know, right Fox? Ah, of course. The difference is obvious, Yusuke nodded, giving a small smile. ... So which one is real? Izuku finally asked, raising a brow. Come now, if you look closely enough, you should be able to tell, right? Yusuke asked, smiling expectantly at Izuku. Oh, come on, dude. You're the only one who would remember every detail of that painting. Ryuji complained. It shouldn't be too difficult. You've all seen examples of it before, have you not? Yusuke pushed, looking at Izuku again. Take a closer look and tell me which is real. I'll confirm it for you. I feel like Kitagawa-san wants us to be able to identify it the same way he does. Izuku internally blanched, forgetting just how important this single painting was to the artist. Swallowing a lump in his throat, Izuku's eyes darted back to the paintings, trying to recall the details of Sayori from memory. Looking at the one with the blue shirt, part of Izuku felt it was off color. With only half an idea, Izuku pointed at the red-shirted Sayori. This one. Ah, it seems you do have a good eye for detail, hero. Yes, that is correct, Yusuke confirmed, causing Izuku to sigh in relief. Fariel. That's amazing, dude, Ryuji mumbled in awe. Izuku laughed sheepishly, rubbing his arm. And no, it really wasn't nice guess, Makoto whispered into his ear, giving him a small smirk. Yes, just look at her vibrant crimson clothes, the beautiful hair, the sublime balance between subject and background. Yusuke went on, taking a moment to truly admire the painting. This may be an illusion, but it is the spitting image of the Sayori, no doubt. The moment he said that, the painting suddenly transformed into a hovering golden light, causing them to recoil. They watched as it floated through the air before flying overhead, merging with one of the corridors and shifting it from blue to gold. Whoa, that did something. Ryuji said, each thief turning around to look at the door. Did identifying the painting give us the right route to take? Makoto wondered aloud. Only one way to find out. Come on. Izuku moved forward with his teammates close behind. Going through the golden door, they soon found themselves on a new platform, all present blinking in shock when they found 4 paintings of Sayori along the path this time. You've gotta be kidding me. How many times do we have to find the real Sayori? Morgana wondered aloud. Come now, it should be quite quick. Hiro did figure it out once before, did he not? Yusuke reasoned, looking at their leader expectantly. Maybe but Fox, I really think you should, it'll be fine. I'm sure you'll do well on your own, Yusuke, motioning with his hands toward the portraits. Izuku sighed, seeing Yusuke's thinly veiled excitement at the prospect of him choosing. Kitagawa-san really is a bit strange. But, not wanting to let him down and seeing little other choice, Izuku moved forward to look at the paintings. Looking across all 4, Izuku felt sweat trail down his face. These ones all looked alike to him. He could see small differences, sure, but none of them made it easier to pin the real Sayori in Izuku's eyes. His third eye didn't reveal the answer either, much to his disappointment. Izuku walked up to the one on the platform they currently stood on. Inspecting it, it honestly looked a lot like the one they just saw previously. This one. Splat, the painting immediately turned into a shadow. Wrong. After a nerve-wracking battle in close quarters, the shadow was destroyed. Each thief leaned on their knees to catch their breath save for Yusuke, who stared at the other paintings quizzically. Oh okay, now we know what happens when we guess wrong, Makoto breathed out, standing up straight. Talk about a friggin' heart attack. Just him popping up was way scarier than the fight itself, Ryuji huffed, shaking his head. Yeah, sorry, Fox, but I don't know this painting like you do. Would you please pick it out for us from now on? Izuku asked, looking at Yusuke pleadingly. Yes, I suppose that would make sense, though I feel like if you just take a closer study of it, just do it. Everyone, I believe we've arrived. After Yusuke was able to guide them out with his proper identifications of the painting, the team had soon found their way to their destination. The final area of the palace. If they needed any more confirmation, the presence of Madaram's shadow at the end of the hall was it. The thieves quickly hid at the corner walls of the main entrance, remaining out of sight from the palace ruler. That looks like the treasure behind him. Anne pointed out in a loud whisper, all eyes trailing up to the transparent cloud floating behind a wall of lasers. That's it. I was expecting something more, I guess, Makoto mumbled, holding her chin in wonder. That's just how it looks for now. Once we send the calling card, it'll materialize like yoo-hoo. Morgana explained, earning a nod of understanding from Makoto. I wonder what form it will take, Yusuke mused. The source of Madaram's distortion, who knows? Maybe something like a self-portrait, Ryuji spat, expecting as much from Madaram at this point. Well, we know where the treasure is now. Think our infiltration route is set? Anne asked. Well, we know where it is obviously, but I wouldn't say our infiltration route is secure, Morgana surmised, looking to the side in doubt. You're right. There's a lot more security around the treasure here in comparison to Kamoshida's, Izuku agreed, eyes scanning around the room. We should look around and see if the security console in control of all this is close by. Good idea. Whatever we can do to weaken the defenses around it would be a major improvement of charging in head first, Makoto nodded in agreement. There's a safe room nearby, so at least we'll be able to come here when the time is right and leave soon as we're done. Let's finish this. Anne said. The group proceeded onward, taking a right hall that winded around the room around the treasure's gallery. Some shadows patrolled the path, but Izuku and the others made sure to hide, avoiding any confrontation, lest they'd draw Madaram's ire. As they pushed further in, they finally arrived at a single security room. Izuku slowly entered first, but breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that there were no guards inside. He quickly jogged up to the front security console, beginning to type through the menus. How much can we shut off from here? Makoto asked, peering through the security window overlooking Madaram's shadow and the treasure. Let's see, it looks like I can open the doors. Izuku pressed enter, and the group soon heard the security shutters throughout the hall suddenly open up. And maybe turn off the lasers. Only Madaram has access to infrared laser controls. Damn it, so much for that idea. Now what? Ryuji grumbled, looking at the others in frustration. Even though we can't turn off the lasers, we can turn off the power if this is right, Izuku mumbled, pressing enter on the input. The power to the main room shut off, though the infrared lasers were clearly still active despite everything else going out. Hey, what just happened? They heard Madaram's voice from the gallery. We don't know. But don't worry, sir. The backup generators will bring us back up in no time. A guard answered for him. Only a moment later did the power return back to normal. TCH. The power came back on pretty damn fast, Ryuji huffed again. Not to mention the lasers remained active even during the blackout, Yusuke pointed out. So we'll only have a few seconds before the power turns back on, huh? Morgana mused, putting a paw to his chin. Come on, back into the hall. Izuku said, quickly leading them back to the door. I doubt that they won't send a guard to check here after that. The group swiftly ran outside, hiding behind the furniture in the lounge area. As Izuku expected, a guard passed by and headed for the security office. Nice call, hero. Looks like we were able to avoid being detected for now, Morgana said, hopping out of his cover. Yeah, but we still didn't get too much done from that. All we did was open those shutters, Ryuji pointed out. And we'll only be able to shut off the lights briefly without being able to shut down the lasers, Yusuke added. We'll have to keep looking around and see what those shutters opened up to us as far as options go, Makoto suggested this time. They didn't waste another moment, quickly running off to where they last passed the shutters. Seeing the new path, they realized that an entire hall had been opened to them. Avoiding another shadow that patrolled the hall and letting it pass, Izuku climbed the new path until they reached the top. Much to their surprise, they found another safe room available for use right before another door leading to their left. Alright, I've marked the safe room on the metanav. What's in the next room? Izuku asked, leaving the safe room after going in alone and allowing the others to check out the next door. It's a room used for controlling the mechanism surrounding the treasures exhibit, Yusuke explained, looking at Izuku as he entered the room. Given the number of hanging works, it makes sense to have a room dedicated to controlling them. The observational skills of an artist are out of this world, Anne mumbled in awe. So they can't control the items in the exhibit? Izuku's eyes widened. Does that include the treasure? That's a good question, hero. Let's take a look around and figure that out, Morgana said, waving for the others to follow him as he hopped on top of a ledge that seemed to connect to the rest of the gallery. The others quickly followed him up, jumping on the ledge and going out. They found a large scaffolding area big enough for them to walk on. Izuku walked forward first, moving toward the center and looking down. Looks like we're right above the treasure and there's nothing guarding it from the top, Izuku said in surprise. This is a rather large hole in their security, but how do we retrieve it? Jumping down? Yusuke asked thoughtfully. No, the controls in the room. If there's a lever that is connected to a wire for the treasure, to that hook and wire, Makoto motioned to just above them, a large hook hanging overhead, we'll be able to lower down into that area without problem. Makoto explained, turning back around and heading for the room. Wait here and tell me if we're right. Okay. Izuku and the others waited for a moment, watching the hook. Soon after, it started to lower down before quickly coming back up. It worked. Okay, back to the room. The others filed out, jumping back down into the control room where Makoto waited for them. Sorry, I didn't want to lower it too much in case they'd notice. It worked though, right? Makoto asked hopefully. It did. Which means we have our way of getting down there and to the treasure. Izuku nodded in excitement, grinning at his team. Yeah, but how are we gonna get in there and grab it without being noticed? They'll attack as soon as they see us coming down, Ryuji pointed out. We won't have long, but we can use the darkness to grab the treasure, Izuku suggested. Good idea, hero, said Morgana. All we have to do is turn off the power as we're lowering down to grab the treasure, right? But that would only give us a few seconds. How would we make it here in time to steal it? Yusuke asked. We'll have to split up, Makoto said this time, following Izuku's line of thought. One team will take down the power and another team will take the treasure. Won't they realize what's going on real quick, though? Ryuji asked nervously. They probably will, but that's why we have to execute this perfectly. We can't waste a moment here, Izuku nodded, his brow furrowing seriously. We just need to steal the treasure and get it to safety before they figure it out. This does seem pretty dangerous, but do you guys really think it'll work? Anne asked, looking at Izuku and Makoto hopefully. It's our best plan of action. I'll try and think of an alternative just in case, but this is what we have to work with in the meantime, Izuku admitted, holding his chin in thought. The team who shuts off the power will immediately have to make a run for it and meet back up with the team stealing the treasure. It's risky, but it can work. Risky moves can have the biggest payoff, Morgana reasoned before looking up at the others. Well, I would say our infiltration route has been secured. Let's get back to the safe room and head back, for now. Man, I can't believe we got this done so quick, though. We're getting good. Ryuji smiled at Izuku as the team started to move out. So, we gonna send the calling card out tomorrow? No, not just yet. I want to prepare as much as possible before jumping after the treasure, Izuku shook his head, causing the others to look back at him. Kamoshida's shadow showed us that anything can happen, and even with our current strength, the palace ruler might still be insanely strong. Let's make sure we've got everything we need. Yeah, you've got a point there. We weren't expecting Kamoshida to be as crazy strong as he was when we took his treasure, Anne agreed, grimacing at the memory. Then it really is best to take this slow. We have plenty of time before the exhibit ends, so rushing in doesn't do us any favors, Makoto nodded. Sounds good to me. I'll leave it up to you to decide when we're ready to go, hero. Ryuji gave a thumbs up. I'll be ready and waiting for the call, said Yusuke. Alright, everyone. We've got our plan and time to rest. Be ready for anything. Right. Chapter 27. Alright, Izuku. What are your plans for prepping for the treasure heist? Morgana asked, his nose poking out of the green-haired teen's bag. I had a few things in mind. I think Kitagawa-san and Kodo-san could use upgrades to their weapons, at least. Izuku's voice trailed off as he held his chin, eyes focused on the ground in front of him. Iwai-san texted me about needing help today, so I'll definitely go to Untouchable and buy better guns for them. I'll text Hatsume-san to see if I can finish testing for the other two support items. We might not get anything right now, but it'll be good to have more options available in the future. I would also like to ask Miss Hima-senpai and Suzui-senpai if any more requests are there for us to take in mementos, but no, I should hold off on that until after the heist. One thing at a time after all. No need to overwhelm the team right before our final push, there he goes, again. Morgana sighed in amusement as he watched Izuku's mumble through his plans for the day. Hey, lem see. I can't see my score. Izuku's eyes trailed back up when he saw the feet of a crowd blocking his path. A number of students were gathered by the wall to get a better look at the board. He could hear the mumblings of other students, some dejected and others excited. Oh, right. I forgot our test scores would be posted soon, Izuku said to himself. He stood on his tiptoes to try and peer past the crowd to no avail. Seeing little other choice, Izuku weaved through the crowd, trying to get a better look at the board. No way, look who's at the top of the first years. He heard a voice, causing the crowd to shift again, Izuku letting out a muffled grunt when he was pancaked between some bags and students. He finally squeezed through, taking a relieved breath as he looked up at the board for his name. Holy crap, didn't think he'd be that smart, he had to have cheated, right? There's no way. Izuku wasn't listening. He was too busy searching for his own name. Ah, there I am. I got 7th overall among the first years, he frowned. Well, I guess I didn't have time to catch up on some things with everything that happened. Just how smart are you? He heard Morgana's muffled voice from his bag. Whoa, did you hear that? This guy sure acts confident. Maybe he really is that smart. There's no way. I bet he stole the answers and tried to make it seem like he didn't. I dunno, that's stretching it a bit. Izuku finally caught on to the voices surrounding him, sweat trailing down his face as he felt several dozen pairs of eyes bore into him. Well. I wonder what everyone else got. Izuku awkwardly laughed aloud, trying to distract himself from the onslaught of whispers and looking across the board. He smiled when he saw Makoto's name at the number 1 spot of the third years, which was not at all surprising. He moved on to the second years, looking for Ryuji and Anne. And not to be mean, but I should probably start from the bottom up to look for them. Izuku was glad to see neither of his friends at the bottom of the list. Not that he believed they were dumb, but anyone could see how badly they procrastinated before exams. He found Ryuji's name a third of the way up and Anne a few spots above him. He also took note of Mishima a couple of spots above her. Well, that's not too bad, all things considered. Hopefully, they scored where they wanted. The crowd around the board began to thin, making way for some other students to peer in. Now with room to move, Izuku turned to leave. Izuku. There you are. He blinked, his head craning to the right. Before he could process who it was, he felt a pair of arms wrap around his back and pull him close. You're my hero. I thought I was gonna score way lower than that this semester. You're the best. He heard Anne's voice, his face turning hot red as steam permeated from him. Not only was Anne hugging him tightly, but he could feel a soft pair of pillows pressing up against his chest. B o o o o o o o b s dude, ease up on him. You probably just gave him a heart attack. Ryuji's voice crept up this time, no small amount of amusement in his tone. Oh. Sorry, Anne giggled sheepishly, letting go of the awkward first year. I fine. Izuku garbled out a response, his eyes pointed up at the ceiling as his face cooled down. But she's right. Thanks for the help, man. I figured I'd be way lower than that. You effin' rock. Ryuji grinned at the green-haired teen. Izuku rubbed the back of his head with a bashful smile. Oh, it was nothing, really. I see you've kept up with your schoolwork, Midori. Congratulations. Izuku looked back to see Makoto approach, a gentle smile on her face. 7th in your grade is quite impressive considering the circumstances you were thrust into. Ryuji's jaw dropped. Wait, what? He got 7th, he and Anne quickly running over to the board to check. Thank you, Koto-san. Next time, I'll shoot for a higher rank. Now that things are calming down, I won't let myself fall behind, Izuku said, giving her a confident smile. Good. And I won't accept our jobs as an excuse. I expect to see you at the top, Makoto giggled. But thankfully, with exams over, we can focus our efforts on a more troublesome target. Izuku's lips fell into a frown, his brow knitting. Yeah. Just a few more days, and we'll finish this. Persona 5 Ost. Suspicion, this wasn't the kind of job I was expecting. Munehisa Iwai was a man Izuku had trouble reading. He didn't seem like a bad man. His son seemed to care about him enough to want to help out at his shop, too. Sure, he was a bit shady when it came to his custom airsoft guns, but Izuku was sure it wasn't anything illegal. But now, Izuku was faced with another gray area. The moment Izuku walked into Untouchable, Iwai said they were leaving, letting him make whatever purchases he needed first. He said he was going to meet with a friend at the Shibuya diner, and he wanted Izuku there to help him leave whenever needed. He even had him come in a bit later than Iwai and sit as close as possible without looking suspicious, so he could hear the signal. Now, Izuku would like to believe this was just a casual talk between estranged friends, and Iwai wanted a quick out of at the drop of a dime. But Izuku wasn't stupid and could tell Iwai wasn't the type of person to involve someone else just to escape awkward conversation. He was certainly blunt enough to end it on his own. An old diner, huh? I thought only old farts come to a place like this, the elderly man asked the shop owner who sat across from him. Izuku didn't get a good look at him when he walked in, but could tell he was a thuggish man despite his age. You've really changed, Mune-san. Hey, don't knock it till you try it. The food's decent. And cheap. Iwai defended gently, eliciting a bark from his guest. Ha! That's coming from the guy who beat up 50 members of a rival family. Who old a guest, eh? Izuku blinked, his ears perking up in interest. 50 men from a rival family. So does that mean you don't need to exaggerate. Izuku didn't miss that Iwai didn't flat out refute the claim. But speaking of old days, how's Tsuda-san doing? Ah, you know how it is. Survivin'. Something particularly hard for men in our line of work nowadays. Heroes everywhere and none of 'em got any respect for what we used to do, the man spat, leaning back in his booth. You've got that, and now our family's under the umbrella of the 8 precepts. Why would he go under them? They're pretty damn insane now after their boss fell sick. The kid in charge is nuts. Izuku was tempted to look back at Iwai. He could hear the caution and disgust in his voice. But it would have been too obvious if he looked back now. They're the strongest family left now, you know. The family had to survive somehow, his friend defended. But why you even askin'? Didn't you two break ties when you left the family? Well, we were both young. I figured it was about time I buried the hatchet with him. But I can't just go up and talk to him. Izuku had to admit, Iwai was much better at lying than he was. At least, he thought it was a lie. Considering that Iwai had him here, ready to call at a moment's notice. Ah, I see. Trying to abide by the all code, huh? Okay, I can set up a meeting for you. No, you fool. I just want to end up in the same place at the same time. Make it look like a coincidence. Ah, okay then well, Shibora might work. That's become our little business district you know. Shibora, huh? Iwai trailed off and coughed without warning. Remembering that it was his signal, Izuku quickly did as he was ordered to, calling his phone. Hang on, I gotta answer this, Iwai said, putting the phone up to his ear. Hey, how's it going? What part was missing? I see. Okay, bring it by the shop now, and I'll see if I can fix it. Okay, see you soon. Iwai stood from his booth, still holding the phone to his ear. Hey, I got a split. A customer had a problem with an order. Sorry about this. Ah, don't sweat it. Good seeing you, Mune-san, his friend said, watching as Iwai walked out. Izuku still held the phone up to his head, waiting for Iwai to walk out. Don't hang up, said Iwai. Keep it on till he leaves. What did I sign up for? Izuku released a sigh, but he did as asked, leaning back in his seat and not looking back. Hey, Tsuda-san, it's Masa, Izuku heard behind him, guessing the man was on the phone. Iwai was asking about you like you said. Don't worry, I did just as you told me to. Not sure what he's looking for, though. Think he's trying to squeeze some money out of us? Oh, sorry. Gee, got it, sorry, boss. I'll keep that in mind. Masa hung up and stood from his seat, finally taking his leave. Izuku watched him intently, taking a small sigh of relief as he watched the door close behind him. Okay, he's gone, Iwai-san. Gotcha. Looks like he didn't say too much after I left, but still Shibora's their playground now, huh? Iwai mused, more to himself than to Izuku. Iwai-san, who was that? Izuku asked, swallowing a lump in his throat. No one you need to be concerned about. Now Iwai-san, if I'm going to help you, I need to know. Izuku fought to keep his voice steady. I said I didn't mind helping out so long as it wasn't something illegal. And if you have a proper explanation for this, please tell me. I want to help you, but I need to know what's going on. A silence followed his small declaration. For a moment, Izuku feared he pushed too far. Heh. Right. You can be pretty gutsy when you wanna be. Izuku felt some relief when heard the amusement in Iwai's voice. Having you help me out is pretty useful, so pushing you out now wouldn't do me any good. Tell you what. Next time you come to work, I'll tell you all about what's going on. That work for you? Izuku wanted answers now. But he accepted that it'd be better to speak to him in person. Okay. I can do that. Good. But that, you're all done for today. Feel free to treat yourself to something nice while you're there and bring me the receipt. I'll pay you back for the meal as part of my thanks. Oh okay, I will. Despite the circumstances, Izuku felt he was coming to a deeper understanding with Iwai. He might have had more questions than answers, but he trusted Iwai would keep his word. Smash Hangman Confidant. Rank 2, My Hero Academia Ost. I will become a hero. I'm so glad I got you back for testing, guinea pig. Izuku couldn't stop a sheepish laugh from escaping his mouth. Sweat trailed down his brow as his eye twitched nervously. He had imagined returning to UA. Would be a joyous occasion, but it was hard to feel any sort of joy with the way Hatsume was eyeing him. It's Izuku Midoriya and yeah, I was excited to come back, Izuku mumbled, already nervous as he watched Mei begin to rummage through a large bin she had rolled into the garage. That's great to hear, Midoriya-kun. Mei laughed, pulling two harnesses out. One looked like a metal backpack and the other resembled a metallic pair of wings with spouts on the ends. Now, I'll let you choose which one of my babies we'll test out today. The first will be the hydraulic attachments. They're made to help evade incoming attacks from all sides at a moment's notice. I need to test their balance and power compensation. She began to explain, holding up the backpack. Or you can test the auto balancer. It's equipped with a 35-axis gyro sensor, meant to keep the user from falling down unless they want to. I just need to test the sensitivity of the sensor and the strength of the balance adjuster. So, which baby would you like to test? They're both eager and waiting to be given their first steps. Izuku swallowed a lump in his throat, looking between the two inventions pensively. Neither of them seemed too dangerous, but he found out the hard way that appearances didn't mean anything when it came to Mei's babies. I hope I don't regret this. Well, to be honest, I'm really eager to have you help me make my own support items, so Izuku took a deep breath, trying to summon his courage. If you don't mind, I'll test both out today. Mei's jaw slacked, her arm slightly lowering as she stared at Izuku in awe for a moment. It was soon replaced by a dazzling grin of excitement, her eyes sparkling as she gave a hearty laugh. I see. Yes, I'm sure you're quite eager to have some of my babies at your disposal. And here I thought you wouldn't be so quick to suggest that after our last test. It wasn't easy, Izuku said under his breath. But I can feel your passion, Midoriya-kun. You truly are making for a great guinea pig. Alright. If that's what you want, then that's what we're going to do. Mei nodded in acceptance, setting the auto balancer on the ground. Let's start with the hydraulic attachments. Quick, put the pack on. Oh, okay. Izuku did as he was told, looping his arms through the harness and buckling it up front. Usually you'd be the one with the remote in your hand controlling the pack, but for testing purposes, I'll be in control. Mei declared, her words immediately filling Izuku with dread. Okay, but please don't start it without warning me. I need to be ready in case something goes wrong, of course, Midoriya-kun. I wouldn't do that to you. Mei laughed, waving a hand in dismissal. Izuku breathed a sigh of relief. That's why I'm letting you know now. Get ready. Wait, already but I start. With the press of a button, Izuku watched two poles shoot out of the corner of his pack, striking the ground and propelling him high into the air. He screamed in terror as he rose higher and higher. He came to stop after he reached about 7 meters in the air, now suspended high above the ground. He flailed around in a vain attempt to steady himself. It felt like he would fall over any second now. Don't panic, Midoriya-kun. It looks like everything is working fine. Mei called out to him, causing Izuku to stiffen up. Just perfect. Look how good of a position you're in now, high above oncoming attackers and capable of launching a counterattack at whatever altitude suits you. That's great, Izuku laughed nervously, sweat beading down his face. So can you let me down now? The hydraulics look to be working perfectly, no problems in the height or speed that they launch, unlock at Mei muttered to herself, jotting notes down onto a clipboard in her hands. Hatsume-san, can you? Izuku suddenly felt his weight shift, eyes widening as he slowly started to dip backward. Hatsume-san. What is? Mei watched as Izuku fell backwards, crashing into the ground with a heavy thud. Mei winced a bit when she heard the noise and rushed over. Are you okay, Midoriya-kun? Was my baby destroyed in the fall? And no, I think, Izuku grumbled, sprawled out on his back as the pack hadn't even cracked from the fall or his weight. Some part of him wished it was, as his back felt like it was almost snapped in two. Ah, that's good. It means I won't have to start from square one. I'll be sure to make some adjustments to the poles to make sure the balance is perfect. Maybe use a stronger metal. Mei trailed off, her mind going into overload as she started to jot down notes, forgetting the fact that Izuku was still on the ground. Izuku slowly climbed to his feet, rubbing his now aching back. It wasn't quite as bad as when he was flung into a tree, but that memory did nothing to soothe the pain. Still better than it could have been. Izuku took a seat as Mei continued to write in her notes, thankfully giving him something of a break as she took her time. Alright. That's all the data I needed from the hydraulic extensions. Mei said, slamming her notebook shut. Now it's time to move on to baby number 2. The auto balancer. Oh okay, Izuku grumbled, sharing none of her excitement. Now, Midoriya-kun. This one should be nowhere near as bad. Mei laughed, holding her next invention out for him to take. We've got some padded flooring on the other side of the garage. If something doesn't work right, you may need it. Izuku followed her further in, strapping the contraption onto his back. He was relieved for the padded flooring because he had no idea what to expect now. So what do you want me to do? This one's easy. Just get a good running start before letting your body freefall. May said with a grin. The auto balancer, if it's working as we want, will use several quick bursts of wind to stand you back up. Easy, right? Why yeah, okay, Izuku nodded, deciding that it definitely wasn't nearly as dangerous as either of the previous tests. He took a small breath in and out, waiting for May's call. Go. Izuku ran forward, going as fast as he could pick up speed. When he thought he was fast enough, with some hesitation, he hopped forward, falling toward the padded floor with his arms spread. Before he could faceplant, the auto balancer kicked in, unleashing a small burst of air from each thruster, creating enough force to push Izuku's body away from the ground. Though Izuku would say with too much force, considering he was sent back in an almost 90-degree spin. Wah. The auto balancer kicked in again, this time blowing out an equal amount of force as before and flinging him back forward. Thus starting a chain of Izuku going back and forth, never hitting the ground but never quite stopping his freefall. Hatsum-san. Stop, this thing. Looks like I need to adjust the energy output from the thrusters and adjust the delay between turning sides. You're doing great, Midoriya-kun. Keep it up. Hatsum-san. It only took 5 minutes to finally get May's attention back to him. Izuku now laid face down on the ground. His head spun and he was on the verge of losing his lunch. Even the least dangerous of her items ended up being painful to use. You're amazing, Midoriya-kun. Thanks to you, we've gathered all the data I need to fix both of my babies in no time. You truly are the best guinea pig I could have hoped for. May declared while standing over her reeling test subject. Thanks, I think I appreciate it, I really do. Enough in fact that I'm willing to part a prototype of mine with you as a reward. Izuku felt some of his strength return, pushing up enough to look at May. Really? Yup. I can work on another item for you in the future, but this should be enough for now. Watch. May said, speeding past Izuku and producing a gun-shaped item from her belt. She took aim at several standing dummies by the wall. Behold, the capture gun. She pulled the trigger, shooting a small ball out that burst after traveling 5 meters, wrapping around 3 dummies and netting them together. Izuku's eyes widened in awe, stumbling a bit as he tried to stand. Wow, you're going to give that to me? Of course. Considering your quirk is vision-based, you need whatever you can get to disable villains by other means, after all. I have a fine-tuned model built already, so I'm giving you this 1 + 10 net balls. May said, holding the capture gun out to Izuku. He took it gingerly, inspecting the item with great care. Wow, this should be really helpful, Hatsum-san. Thank you. Izuku said, turning to the inventor with a bright smile. Of course. If you need any more netballs, be sure to let me know in the future. May said before placing a hand on his shoulder, her expression becoming intense. And also make sure that it doesn't get used for anything illegal or end up in the hands of some copycat K. Izuku nodded fervently. Why yes ma'am. I promise. May's intensity quickly vanished, replaced by another determined smile. Great. Now go out and use it to your liking. Get a taste of my baby's power and see what you can expect more of in the future. And the more you test out for me, the more I'll be willing to share with you. Understood, Hatsum-san. Thank you. Izuku smiled, stuffing the capture gun away. As painful and strenuous as the tests had been, Izuku couldn't help but walk away with a spring in his step. Not only had he met her expectations, he was also walking away with something very useful. He could imagine its uses while in the palace. All in all, he thought today was progress well made between him and May. Smash Fortune Confidant. Rank 2 you know, it's getting pretty late. Maybe now's a good time for you to go to sleep. After I finish this last one up Izuku mumbled, trying to keep his concentration on the infiltration tool at hand. After getting home from UA, Izuku asked Morgana to teach him how to make several tools. Currently, he was building an element set from the materials they picked up throughout the palace. You said we're sending the calling card tomorrow, right? Are you sure you want to stay up this late after the day you had? Morgana asked in concern, peeking past his shoulder and checking his progress. It's okay today was rough, but nothing too bad Izuku said, forgetting the bag of ice taped to his back. And we even got another tool to use, but I'm going to make sure we're fully prepared. Ryuja-senpai and Kitagawa-sen are doing their part. I want to do mine. Well if you're that set on it, I won't stop you. Just try not to spend too long on it, okay? Morgana said, impressed with Izuku's progress on the set. He was almost finished creating the freeze spray. He could hear Morgana hop off the table and walking around the room. As Izuku adjusted the head of the aerosol can, he heard the sound of books toppling. Stopping his work, he looked back at Morgana. The cat glanced back sheepishly, rubbing his head with a paw. Sorry about that. I just saw something that looked interesting and tried to pull it out Morgana said while looking down at the scattered books. It's okay. Just leave it there and I'll clean it up when I'm done, Izuku said with a kind smile as he prepared to turn back to infiltration tool. Hey, what's this? Hero analysis for the future number 13. Izuku winced, quickly spinning back around. That's whoa, did you write all this? Morgana asked, skimming through the pages with his paw. You really did take your hero worship to the next level. Izuku blushed at that, looking down in embarrassment as he rubbed his head. Well, that's. Ho, what's this? Mount Lady is sexy, is she? Morgana said, his tone hiding none of his amusement. Now we know you're into taller girls, huh? Wait, you're misunderstanding. Izuku waved his arms sporadically. Why you see, at that time, Mount Lady was a brand new hero on the scene. I watched her help Kamui Woods and several other heroes take down a villain rampaging through town. She ended up dealing the final hit and made a point to flaunt her assets. He coughed, trying not to sound demeaning. It's not unusual for some heroes to use their looks to their advantage, man or woman. Mount Lady was definitely trying to get that sort of attention when making her debut. Morgana tilted his head in thought, taking in the information. I see, so you just took note of what she was going for, okay, though I'm only half convinced because it's you saying this. Izuku let his head hang, refusing to offer him the dignity of a response. Still, I have to admit, the notes you've taken are impressive, Morgana continued, causing Izuku to look back up at him again. Even though you're a fanboy, I have to wonder why take notes on so many different heroes. All Might seems like the one you admire most, but you've got a whole catalog of heroes in here. Izuku gave a nostalgic smile, standing up from his chair and walking over to Morgana. He reached down and grabbed the notebook, holding it up and flipping through the pages. Because I thought that maybe, if I could figure out how so many different heroes made it, how their strengths worked, and how I might be able to use them to my own advantage, I'd be able to get into UA. Izuku closed the book, gazing at the charred crinkled cover with a gentle expression. I thought if I just worked hard enough and studied hard enough, I could make it, even without a quirk. But in the end, it really wasn't in the cards for me, huh? His eyes trailed over to Morgana, who was now looking somewhat ashamed. I see. I'm sorry for bringing that up. I know being a hero meant the world to you. My Hero Academia asked. You can become a hero, it did, but I'm over it now. Izuku declared, causing Morgana to look up at him in surprise. It's true. Ever since meeting you and becoming a phantom thief, I found a new purpose to pursue. In fact, I want to show you something. Izuku grabbed his book bag by the workbench and pulled out a bundle of notebooks. He undid the strap and pulled out a notebook at the center, turning around with a sheepish expression as the cat approached to see what he was holding. I was sort of hiding it because I was kind of embarrassed, but I think it's okay to show you now. Izuku held out the notebook in his hand, placing it on the ground for Morgana to read. Shadow and persona analysis for the present number 1, Morgana read aloud, slowly pulling the cover back to read through the pages. I made sure to include everyone's personas in there and what we know about their strengths and weaknesses in combat. Not to mention I made note of all the shadows we've encountered and which ones I was able to capture. Izuku explained with a glint in his eyes, watching as Morgana looked through it in stunned silence. I want to make sure everyone's using their powers to the fullest and we approach enemies with all the info we need to take them down. Izuku, this is amazing, Morgana mumbled, looking back up at the green-haired teen. I knew you took your position as leader seriously, but I've accepted that I'll never become a pro hero now. It's just a fact, Izuku said, his voice solemn but firm. But even if I can't be a legitimate hero like I wanted, I can still help people in different ways. I can save people who have been overlooked or silenced. And that's thanks to you, Morgana-san. You're thanking me? Of course. If you hadn't taught us everything about the metaverse, this never would have been possible. Izuku declared, flashing a vibrant smile. Thank you, Morgana-san. I'm really glad we met. The cat looked away shyly, rubbing his paws together as he struggled to find the words. Well, I'm happy to hear that you're grateful. I accept your thanks, Izuku's smile only widened. He could feel his bond with Morgana deepen now that he'd finally given his thanks to the cat for everything he'd done. Smash Magician Confidant. Rank 3. As the darkness faded, Izuku watched as Morgana coughed into his paw, trying to regain his composure and look stern. Well, if you'd really like to show your appreciation, I wouldn't be opposed to getting some fatty tuna if you'd get it for me. Okay, I don't mind doing that for you, Izuku nodded in acceptance. If you want, we can walk to the fish market and get some sushi from there. It's not too late for some of the stores, and Sakura-san gave me a key to lock up for him if I do leave. That would be acceptable, Morgana said, giving him a feline smile. Let's go. Izuku nodded, standing up and grabbing his jacket and shoulder bag after Morgana hopped in. Hey Izuku. Yeah. I'm glad we met, too. The smile Madaram wore for his admirers was well practiced. It had done well to hide the faint anxiety and irritation that lingered in his mind. At first, after dealing with Yusuke's unwanted guests, he had decided to wait until his exhibit was over to press charges and thought that would be the end of that. After all, they were just stupid kids. No one would listen to their lies over his word. But Madaram couldn't shake the grating feeling they were becoming a bigger problem than he first thought. The famous artist almost felt paranoid with how much he seethed over their invasion of his home and exposing his secrets to his sole remaining student. He spared a glance back at Yusuke, who was attending to arrangements with the exhibit staff nearby. He had been silent about that day's turn of events and didn't attempt to bring it up again. Part of Madaram remained suspicious of Yusuke's loyalty. Had his student shrugged off what happened? Or was he plotting against him with those brats? He better stay in line. Or else. Sir, Madaram pulled his gaze away from his student, giving one of his security staff a faint smile. There's something we need to discuss with you. It's urgent. All right. He nodded, looking at his patrons. Please excuse me for a moment. He followed the guard off to the side, the two huddling close and whispering, what is it? We found this outside. The guard held out a small black and red card for him. A letter. The guard hesitated, causing Madaram to raise a brow. He took the letter, inspecting the words pasted across it with different fonts. Sir Ichirisai Madaram, a great sinner of vanity whose talent has been exhausted. You are an artist who shamelessly uses his authority to steal the ideas of his pupils. We have decided to make you confess your crimes with your own mouth. We will take your distorted desires without fail. From the Phantom Thieves of Hearts. Madaram's mask of serenity melted away. He quickly crumpled up the paper in his hands, looking up at the guard in anger. Whose doing is this? We don't know. The same card has been posted everywhere. The staff member explained nervously. We checked the cameras and saw no signs of a culprit. All we caught sight of was some stray cat running around. Remove all of these cards at once. Madaram ordered him furiously. Oh, of course, sir. Madaram turned from him, but noticed that he lingered a moment. What else is there? Well, we here at the studio think it's nothing but a prank, but what about the media, sir? Are you insinuating that this slander is true? And no, sir. Then hurry up and deal with the remaining cards. Now. Madaram watched the exhibit guard run off, gritting his teeth. It's those damn brats again. Oh, well. They can only do as they please until the exhibit is over. Madaram didn't notice his student walking off to one of the standing walls of the exhibit to meet with Izuku and the others close by. Will that be enough? Asked Yusuke. Izuku stepped up first, his brow hardened. Yeah. Let's finish this, everyone. Right. Persona 5 asked. Life will change, figures there'd be a guard in there. Ryuji clicked his tongue. He, Makoto and Ann standing just outside the security room overlooking the treasure. We could fight our way through, but that'd make too much noise, Makoto sighed, rubbing her chin. We'll have to get someone to lead it away. Welp, guess that's where I come in, Ryuji said, rolling his shoulders in preparation. Are you sure you're up for it, Skull? Ann asked in concern. What if he catches you? Heh. Don't underestimate the former ace of the track team, Ryuji declared. Plus, I've been storing up some energy. Once I'm far enough, I'll split real quick. Okay, just remember not to push your quirk too hard, Ann said with a nod. We'll leave it to you. If something goes wrong, meet us at the control room, said Makoto as she and Ann hid behind the planters nearby. Ryuji stepped up to the door, giving it a quick rap. HELP. We've got some suspicious looking fools out here. I need help catching them. He immediately took off, hearing the door behind him slam open, the shadow in hot pursuit. Ann and Makoto stepped out of their cover as the shadow was led away. You better make it back, Skull, Ann muttered before she and Makoto walked inside the security room. I trust he knows what he's doing. Now for us to do our part. Makoto said, peering out the glass to see Yusuke and Morgana standing in the scaffolding above. Is that secure enough? Yusuke asked, tying Morgana securely to the hanging hook. Morgana grinned in excitement. It's perfect. I'm ready to nab the treasure. You seem to be enjoying yourself, Yusuke mentioned in mild interest. Only the best can appreciate these critical moments. Plus, this makes us feel like real phantom thieves. Said Morgana out of pure joy. We'll be counting on you, Mona, Yusuke said, turning to look down at the security room. He made out Makoto and Ann through the glass and gave a quick wave. The two quickly shut the lights off, causing the room to darken completely. Yusuke jogged back to the control room, looking down at Izuku. Now, hero. Got it. Izuku quickly pulled the lever, lowering Morgana into the exhibit area. He pulled out his staff, and Yusuke drew his sword, preparing to engage any shadow that walked in. To their relief, the first person to step through the door was Ryuji. Sup? Everything going well? Ryuji asked, wiggling his right leg out. How's your leg? Izuku asked. It's cool. That shadow was harder to lose than I thought, so I ended up using it for a bit longer than it liked. Ryuji admitted. The doors quickly swung open, both Makoto and Anne coming through this time. "Oh good, you made it here first," Anne breathed in relief when she saw Ryuji. "Told you I'd be fine." He gave her a thumbs up. "Alright, we're all here. Let's go see how Mona's doing," Izuku said, waving for the others to follow as he hopped up to the scaffolding. Walking out together, they saw Morgana walking toward them, the treasure covered in purple cloth. "I present to you Madaram's treasure." Morgana grinned, holding it up for them to see. "You're amazing, Mona," Ryuji said in awe. "The treasure. It's been taken from the display." They heard the guards below calling out, the shadows going into a frenzy. "Those damn vermin dare." Madaram's shadow growled before scoffing. "But this just means they're easier to catch. Lock all the doors out. Find them. Going out the way we came isn't an option," Izuku sighed, looking over his shoulder as he heard shadows bust through the control room doors. "The window. That way." Makoto pointed out, causing the group to look to the side. "But where will it go?" Anne asked with reluctance. "Seems like our only option, regardless." "Let's go," Morgana said, everyone quickly agreeing before hopping across the scaffolding. They made their way out the window after Izuku checked to make sure there was footing. "Holy crap, we're high up," Ryuji exclaimed, peering over the side. From where he stood, the buildings looked like toy models. "We don't have time to enjoy the view, come on," said Morgana. "Come on, this way," Izuku called, rushing to a side of artistically designed blocks along the building, hopping down one by one. They pushed as far as they could, but were forced to stop at an edge of the building, a lone red portal door standing tall to their left. "This looks like one of those blue doors from that room," Yusuke pointed out, eyeing it cautiously. "But where will it take us?" "I'm not sure, but I don't think we have any choice," Izuku said, looking around the sides for any other options. Sadly, they were still far too high in the air to risk a jump. "Shit, for real?" "Well, not like we got any other way," Ryuji clicked his tongue. "Be ready for an ambush. We have no idea where it'll take us in the palace, so dropping our guard now because we lost them would be a mistake." "Right. Lead the way, hero," Anne said in support. Izuku did as asked, moving forward with everyone close behind him. Going through the red light, Izuku was soon met with a drastic change in scenery. "This is the courtyard where we opened the door," Izuku mumbled, looking around in wonder. "I knew all that security had a purpose. It would have been meaningless if it only led back inside." Morgana hopped up and down in accomplishment. "Well, that aside, it seems we've escaped their siege," Yusuke said, eyes peering around for any shadows. "We're not out of this yet. We need to keep going." "It shouldn't be far now," Izuku said, beginning to walk forward. "Emru?" Everyone hesitated, looking at Morgana after his sudden purr. "Huh? Mona?" Anne raised a brow. "Gah. I can't take it. Let's take a look at the treasure," Morgana exclaimed, pulling the painting off his back. "Wah dude." Right now Ryuji blanched in disbelief. "You choose now of all times to get excited." "This has happened before?" Makoto asked, raising a brow at Izuku. "Why yeah, it happened with the previous treasure," to Izuku's side, walking up to Morgana. "Mona, we don't have time. If we stay on task, we can avoid any trouble. Just a quick peek. No harm no foul," Morgana said, putting the painting on the ground and pulling at the fabric covering it. Izuku sighed, walking over with everyone else to take a look. "Trasure," Morgana exclaimed as he finally drew it away for everyone to see. The team gave a unanimous blink, eyes wide as plates, as the treasure was revealed to be a poorly made face outline. "Huh? That's the treasure," Ryuji blurted. In the corner of his eye, Yusuke watched one of the security gates lift up. "Look out." Everyone looked up at once, reacting just in the nick of time to avoid getting caught in the electric field created. HMPH. Meddlesome vermin. The thieves snapped their heads back, watching as Madaram approached them with two guards at his side. Under one of his guards' arms was a painting, hidden from view. "Is this what you're looking for? So you had a fake prepped, huh?" Ryuji huffed. Madaram chuckled with a proud smile. "Counterfeits are accepted in the world of art. That was a smart choice. But you've made the big mistake of bringing the real treasure here for us," Makoto declared, gripping her knuckle dusters and stomping a foot into the ground. Everyone soon drew their melee weapons, preparing for a fight. "We'll be taking it now. HMPH. Such childish dreams you have if you think you can take this precious thing from me," Madaram grinned. Before the team could make an attack, Yusuke stepped forward. "What made you change like this? Was it becoming famous?" Yusuke asked. "Can't you understand how it pains me to ask these questions of my own foster father?" Madaram's gaze shifted to Yusuke, watching him for a long moment. "Now that I think back, the only reason I took you in was because of my ties to your mother. That woman never lost her passion for painting even after her husband died. Her skills and talents were quite astonishing, which is why I decided to look after her." Madaram's grin became twisted, the glint in his eyes turned manic. Your mother and all her works were my works of art. How low can you sink? Spat Anne. How many people have you used, Madara? Izuku demanded. I suppose I could grant you one last gift before you die, Madara smirked, his gaze remaining on the silently seething Yusuke. A look at the genuine Sayori. Genuine. Yusuke muttered. His fury was replaced with confusion soon when Madara signaled the guard holding the painting with a nod. The shadow held it up for all to see, presenting a painting of Sayori. But in the woman's arms was a baby wrapped in a white cloth. Yusuke's face drained of color. It can't be, this is the real Sayori. Yusuke winced, emotions overwhelming him. Mom, that's right. Sayori was a self-portrait of your mother. The woman who knew her impending death was coming painted her last wishes for the son she would leave behind. Madara began, his voice surprisingly grave. But that expression quickly morphed into that of morbid amusement. That is the truth behind the mystery of Sayori's expression. You stole something that personal, Ryuji shouted. I knew at first glance. I knew it'd become a huge success if I added a touch to the painting and announced it under my name. Madara went on, grinning at his achievement. But why did you paint over the babe in the picture? Yusuke asked, his voice weak. It was all to stage it. I knew if I removed the baby from the picture, Sayori's expression would remain a mystery. Madara gave a callous laugh. That is what the general public is drawn to. Each of those parasitic critics wrote the same thing. How could you? If you took in Kitagawa-san, you had to have cared about his mother, at least. Izuku snapped. How could you do that to the painting of someone you cared about? Yeah. If you had any love for that painting or the one who made it, there's no way you would have replicated it. Anne added, stomping her heel in front of her, you don't love art at all. You have a real treasure right there, but your own work is nothing better than those scribbles on the fake. Morgana hissed. Your skills just make me laugh, asshole. Ryuji huffed. I've changed my mind. We'll take the painting after we beat some sense into you. Makoto clenched her weapons even tighter. You'll get no more mercy from us. HMPH. So you still plan on defying me? Madara huffed, looking down his nose at them before his gaze trailed to Yusuke. Since you're one of my works of art, Yusuke, it seems I'll have to reap you now for the sake of my future. Along with your meddlesome friends. I can't believe you treat both mother and son like they're objects. You're inhuman. Said Anne. Despite his words, Yusuke was disturbingly silent, causing the others to shift their gaze to him. Fox. I've heard that you destroy your art once they've outlived their usefulness, Yusuke began, his voice grave. Did that include my mother as well? The thieves' breath hitched in their chests, quickly shifting their gaze back to Madara. Disturbingly enough, the counterfeiter gave a malicious smile. She just so happened to have a seizure in front of me. That's when a thought crossed my mind, if I left her be, I could obtain her painting with no strings attached. No, you let her die, Anne asked in disbelief. You monster. Izuku's hands shook with fury as he gripped his staff tighter. Above all, Yusuke, don't you think it odd that I discovered your talent from the young age of 3? Madara continued, his tone hiding none of his twisted amusement. The real reason I kept you around was to keep you from discovering the truth behind Sayori. You killed her. Yusuke trembled with rage. Your artistic talent was a delightful miscalculation on my part, though. If I'm to steal ideas, it's much easier to steal from brats that won't talk back than adults. It's thanks to you that I came up with the idea. You have my gratitude. Madara continued, holding back no punches as he twisted the dagger deeper. Yusuke's only answer to these treacherous words was a sharp chuckle. Yusuke. Anne muttered in concern. I thank you, Madara. For you've just erased any and all reason I might forgive you, Yusuke said, leveling his gaze back at his former master. You aren't some rotten artist, you're a vicious fiend who wears the skin of an artist. All you good-for-nothings. Barging into my museum and doing whatever you want. Madara finally barked out in anger, becoming frustrated with their defiance. The room started to darken, a pool of red and black ooze forming at his feet. Those who have the connections make the rules, those who don't, follow them. Art is all subjective, and now I make the rules in that world. I am the supreme being. I am the god of the art world. Persona 5 Ost. Blooming villain, this isn't good. Get back. Morgana warned. Everyone jumped back as the black ooze absorbed Madara. The thieves watched as what looked like 4 picture frames take shape. The frames contained a pair of eyes, a nose and a mouth. Each part squirmed around in the air like a living thing. I'll paint all over you. What the shit? Ryuji blurted in disgust. Careful. This is like Kamoshida. His shadow should be incredibly strong. Morgana warned the others. But I don't see the treasure. How are we going to weaken it? Anne asked, reaching up to her mask. We'll just have to keep hitting him. Izuku said, gritting his teeth as he took a fighting stance. We're stronger than we were before. We can do this. We shall not be denied the treasure because of something like this. Yusuke roared, drawing the katana and pointing the blade forward. You're going down now, Madara. We'll see about that, you vermin. The shadow's mouth snarled, its eyes twitching back and forth between the thieves. You're all going to die here. We're tired of hearing your mouth. Makoto hissed, grabbing her mask. Come, Johanna. She summoned her persona, hopping on top of it and revving its wheel before driving directly at the Madaram shadow. Stop marking my floors with your tires, you trash. The nose portrait blew out a heated breeze from its nostril. Makoto pulled up on the handles, narrowly avoiding a powerful explosion of flame. Careful, Queen. I've got your back, said Anne as she ripped her mask off. Carmen. Muragi. The busty persona stamping her followers to unleash a barrage of flame at the palace ruler. It ate the entire attack, flames blazing through the air. She prepared to follow up on that attack but froze when the smoke cleared HMPH. What an annoyance, the shadow scoffed. The thieves watched as the eyes absorbed the flames painlessly as the same green aura of healing like Dia surrounded them. Ryuji blanched. What the hell? It didn't do nothing, not only nothing, it healed the shadow. Morgana announced to the others. No, not all of it. Izuku shouted, drawing his friend's attention. Only the eyes. The mouth and the nose didn't absorb it the same way. Are you vermin done chatting? Because now you're going to suffer. The shadow cackled, its nose once again blowing out a breeze. This time it was cold, producing a pure ball of ice directly at Anne. She could barely react, putting up her arms before taking the full brunt of the attack. Ah! Anne cried out, being thrown back by the force of the ice explosion. Panther. Everyone cried out, Ryuji the first to move and rushed to her side as she fell to the ground. He slid across the floor, quickly moving to her side. Panther. You okay, he asked, cradling her up in his arms. I'm okay, just need a second, Anne said groggily, slowly forcing herself to sit up. Skull, keep Panther safe while she recovers. Mona, heal her up. Izuku ordered, quickly rushing at the palace ruler with a hand on his mask. You monster, Madaram. Yusuke snarled, quickly drawing his mask away. Gomen, strike. Hefting its axe of a pipe, Gomen slashed down on the nose. It dealt a noticeable amount of damage, but it wasn't enough to destroy the portrait. Gah. You ungrateful brat. Madaram growled, the mouth of the paintings lunging at Yusuke. Izuku was quick to intercept it, drawing his mask. Come, Yaxini. A female, purple being materialized behind Izuku, the persona wielding two blades in its hands and swinging them back. Before entering the palace, Izuku had spent time with the twins, fusing several of his personas into completely new ones as part of his strongest lineup yet. The nose didn't absorb physical damage like it did the fire, so this showed Izuku felt sweat form on his face as he watched Yaxini's attack completely bounce off the mouth. Not only was it completely ignored, the force was drained and used to heal the mouth. Ha! Foolish child. The shadow cackled as the mouth continued unimpeded, biting down on Yaxini's arm and transmitting the damage to Izuku. Gah! Izuku cried out in pain, feeling his arm bruise from the pressure. Hero. Makoto spun back into the fray as Johanna's face began to glow with power. Fray. A ball of radioactive energy burst forth, blasting the shadow's painted mouth and making it recoil back in pain. Grah. You insolent. Makoto didn't bother to listen, quickly grabbing Izuku and pulling him onto the bike. Are you okay? She asked while circling around the courtyard. I'm okay, it's strong, though, Izuku hissed in pain, rubbing his tender arm gently. I was careless. Each painting has different weaknesses. The mouth absorbs physical damage while the rest doesn't. Frey seemed to work on the mouth, at least. We'll have to test everything on it. Sadly, that means we'll be feeding it energy every time we use the wrong attack. She and Izuku peered over their shoulders to look at Madaram's shadow. Target the nose. It appears to be the source of its elemental attacks. Yusuke advised to the others, Morgana jumping to his side and summoning Zoro. Let's hit it with everything. Come on. Morgana called out Zoro, who spun its rapier between its fingers to prepare to unleash a Gear spell. You shall all be painted over. The shadow roared. Black ink flew from the portraits without warning and splattered across both of the thieves before they could attack. What is this? I feel weak, Morgana mumbled, falling over as he failed to cast Geru. I'm not sure, but Yusuke mumbled, gritting his teeth as he looked back up at Madaram's shadow, eyes widening as its nose drew in a breath. Watch out. The wind coalesced into a ball of lightning that exploded on contact with the ground. Yusuke had grabbed Morgana before it hit and jumped out of the way, narrowly avoiding a direct hit. Even still, both of them tumbled across the floor reeling from the blow. It didn't hit us directly, and yet Yusuke groaned, gritting his teeth. The black ink, it's making us more susceptible to damage, Morgana ground out, pushing on his paws to stand up. Makoto quickly drove in front of the two with Izuku hopping off and taking a defensive position in front of them. We've been too reckless. We need to regroup and come up with a plan. Izuku told them, reaching into his jacket. You vermin will get no chances. I'll wash over each of you with my paint and erase you. Madaram's shadow growled again, breathing deeply as it prepared for another attack. Izuku only narrowed his eyes and produced a white ball from his jacket. Before the palace ruler could strike, Izuku slammed the ball into the ground, creating a thick cloud of smoke that quickly filled their surroundings. What? The shadow blanched before snarling. You think you can hide from me? It blew another furious ball of flame out, blasting into the area Madaram assumed they were still standing in. The cloud of smoke was easily pierced, but there was no sign of his prey anywhere as the smoke cleared. You little come out now. Ink shot out around the area from the paintings, but the thieves were safe behind the stone displays in the courtyard. Shit. If that crap hits us, we'll be in trouble. Ryuji said, keeping an arm over Anne's head to keep her covered. We've figured out a few things about Madaram's shadow. But proceeding isn't going to be easy from here, Makoto said, looking back at Izuku. Any ideas? Avoiding the ink is our top priority. Izuku looked over Morgana and Yusuke. Are you guys better now? It looks like it's fading. I'm still hurt from the damage we took, but it's nothing we can't handle. Morgana stood up and patted himself off to punctuate the thought. It seems the ink does not linger for long. Still, when it's on you, it saps your energy while making you more vulnerable to attack, Yusuke explained. To top it off, the portraits absorb different types of damage to restore its own health, Anne said, gently touching Ryuji's shoulder. Thanks, Call. I'm fine now. Gotcha. Then let's focus on one portrait at a time. We'll go for the nose like Yusuke suggested, Izuku said, focusing on his masks and changing personas. We know it will still take physical damage. Let's not test our luck with anything else. Skull, Fox and I will go for the nose. Queen, Panther and Mona, you guys will work on the rest of the portraits. Try and find more of its strengths. Right. Before we rush in, here. Morgana summons Oro, casting media and washing everyone over with a healing wave. We need to be more mindful this time. Okay. Ready? Izuku asked. Everyone got up with weapons in hand. Let's move. The thieves burst out of their cover. Makoto summoned Johanna and rode out with Anne and Morgana riding in the back. Don't give him a chance to strike. Yusuke exclaimed as he, Ryuji and Izuku went into full sprints toward the shadow. Ha! You fools are nothing but lambs to the slaughter. Madaram's shadow laughed, inhaling a breath into its nose and preparing to blast them. Don't even think about it. Morgana and Makoto each blasted an eye with a gust of wind and a blast of nuclear energy. While one eye recoiled in pain from the nuclear blast, the other drained the wind, absorbing it into health. See crap. Wind's not effective on the eye. You still can't stop me. The shadow laughed, blowing another blast forward from its nostrils. Come, Shiase. Izuku called out, summoning a yellow and blue-maned creature resembling the ancient Shishis. Izuku jumped on its back as it ran, dodging the attack as his persona hopped over the explosion before it could hit. Here's some help. Wreck him. Ryuji pointed at Izuku, a red field washing over him and his persona. Take this, Madaram. Izuku roared, hopping off of Shiase as they sailed toward the palace ruler. The persona let out a snarl before bringing its claw down, tearing 3 holes in the fabric across the nose. As Izuku descended, he twisted in the air and slammed his staff into the same portrait. He let out a fierce cry before following through and knocking the portrait to the ground. GraaghyOudamn vermin. The shadow's other portrait seized in pain as the nose began to crack. Let us be rid of it. Yusuke called forth Gomen, the towering persona stomping the ground as it slammed the axe end of its pipe onto the nose. With that last bit of damage, it cut it in half, causing both sides to dissipate into black ink before their eyes. And then oh how could you? It wailed, each portrait spazzing around. Izuku climbed back onto Shiase, turning on a dime and running back to join the others. Alright. That's one portrait down. Izuku said as he fell back in line next to Yusuke and Ryuji some ways away from Madaram. Now let's find the other portrait's weaknesses. Right. The others sounded back, preparing to run forward. They stopped in their tracks when the portraits went still, the eyes glaring down at them as the mouth twisted into a malicious grin. Hehehe you foolish vermin don't understand my power. It roared with laughter, its eyes flashing with red light. The thieves gawked as a black puddle formed underneath the portraits. From it, the same nose they destroyed had taken shape again. Then no effin' way Ryuji mumbled as the palace ruler was restored to its full power. That thing can regenerate, Morgana gasped in disbelief. Everyone, get back. Makoto called out in fear. You're too late. Madaram's shadow spat a wave of black ink from its mouth, covering Izuku, Ryuji and Yusuke. The 3 fell back as their strength was sapped. Izuku grit his teeth as he looked up at the nose, watching it inhale a gust of wind. He's going to strike again. I have to stop him. Izuku quickly switched personas, bringing Carter back out with his fist glowing with blinding light. Die. Tyrande. Anne quickly shouted, her persona draining some of the nose's firepower. Virginia smash. Izuku roared, feeling his arm tremble as Carter brought its fist forward and collided with the wave of wind Madaram produced. Normally, Carter would have easily overpowered the attack. But the ink dulled his mightiest blow enough that they simply cancelled out. Izuku heaved for air, sweat trailing down his face as he fell to his hands and knees. His body wasn't listening to him. His limbs quaked as they lost every ounce of strength they had left. I need to get up. Come on, move. Good save, hero. Come on. Said Ryuji. He and Yusu quickly wrapping their arms under Izuku's and pulled him behind cover. We need to let the ink fade again. Yusuke suggested, gritting his teeth as he mustered the strength to carry Izuku and run at the same time. Don't think you can get away. Madaram prepared another attack, breathing gust into its nose. Lucky punch. The nose was sent spinning off course when a spring-powered boxing glove collided with it. Madaram's shadow groaned in pain, eyes glaring up as it saw Morgana, Makoto and Anne quickly move in front of the others. You're not going to do as you please. Morgana proclaimed, pointing his scimitar at Madaram's shadow. Keep them covered, Queen. We'll hold him off while the ink fades. Anne said, flailing her whip before running at Madaram with Morgana. On it. Makoto said, quickly driving back over to the Izuku and the others. I've got you covered. Diorama. A green wave washed over Izuku, bringing him enough relief to stand up on his own. Thanks, Queen, but damn it, what are we supposed to do? Izuku clicked his tongue, looking back at the palace ruler, which was busy deflecting Carmen and Zoro's attacks. If we take out one piece, it'll just regenerate it. Makoto's gaze returned to the fight. We'll just have to take them all out at once. But how? That asshole's portraits resist all different shit. We'll just keep feeding it power till we run out. Ryuji cursed, gritting his teeth in frustration. It may be our only choice. We'll have to discover the weakness of each individual part and hope we do enough damage before he can stop us, Yusuke sighed, looking at his body. Though with it spreading this black ink everywhere and weakening us, even that seems impossible. If only we could use it ourselves. Izuku's eyes lit up as a smile crept onto his face. That's it. You're right, Fox. We'll beat him using the ink. Huh? How? Ryuji blinked in confusion. Izuku's gaze trailed back to Makoto, holding up his arm. Do you think there's enough ink on us for you to mimic? Burn him, Carmen. Anne ordered. The persona flung several fireballs directly into the mouth and nose. The palace ruler growled but remained undeterred. I grow tired of this constant game of cat and mouse. You're all going to be washed away here. Madaram roared, unleashing another barrage of black ink that covered Anne and Morgana this time. Drat. Be careful, Panther. Morgana warned as he willed Zoro forward to cover them. Beggin. The shadow inhaled yet again to prepare another attack. But before it got the chance, the eyes spotted Johanna charging it at full speed. HMPH. You won't catch me by surprise, vermin. It took aim at Makoto and her persona, coating the ground with a wave of ice that crawled towards her. We'll see about that. Vajra blast. Makoto lifted the front tire of Johanna up before slamming it back down, using the power from her attack to launch her and the persona high into the air, positioning herself perfectly above Madaram's shadow. You can't escape my power. The portrait's mouth roared and took another breath. But before it could unleash its next attack, a net burst around its eyes and nose and tied them together. What, you've lost, Madaram. Izuku exclaimed with the capture gun in hand. He shifted his attention up to Makoto. Now, Queen. You like that ink so much, have a taste for yourself. Makoto cocked her right arm back. Her glove had been pulled off and her fist was now pitch black. With a forward thrust, Makoto shot a stream of ink out from her arm like a fire hose. What? How the palace ruler's words came to an abrupt stop as each portrait was drenched in black ink, causing it to slowly lower the hover of each part closer to the ground. What did you do? How could you have now, everyone? Makoto exclaimed, pointing at Madaram. Hit it with everything you've got. The eyes trailed forward weakly, portraits trembling with fear as each of the thieves stood front and center together. Together. Izuku said, placing a hand on his mask. Carter. Captain Kidd. Carmen. Zoro. Gomen. Each persona materialized behind their master. Carter's fist brimmed with light. Lightning crackled around the barrel of Captain Kidd's. Carmen's slaves became engulfed in flame. Small tornadoes circled Zoro's twirling sword. Gomen's pipe was coated in a glistening layer of ice. Eat this. The personas unleashed their wrath all at once, their attacks raining down like a waterfall over rocks. The portraits cried out in agony, each one unable to maintain its form as they all dispersed into ink, falling into a puddle on the ground and pooling together. The phantom thieves dismissed their personas, each one gasping for air as they watched a pool of black ink dissolve. Shadow Madaram's body took shape again at the center, the fraud groaning in pain as it fell on its hands and knees. Underneath his body was the true Sayuri. I won't. Madaram's shadow growled weakly, his deranged yellow eyes glaring up at the thieves. I won't lose to you vermin. He cried out, raising a hand and unleashing a small barrage of black energy balls. Careful, that's an almighty attack. Shouted Morgana. A almighty attack? Said Izuku. What does that mean? There's no time to explain, block it now. Izuku and the others quickly raised their guards as the energy orbs descended on them with a small explosion. It managed to push them back and dirtied their clothes a little. But that was it. The thieves waited for more before looking around at one another, seeing that no one was really hurt. Well, that was anticlimactic, Anne scoffed, placing a hand on her hip. So much for your last attack, asshole, Ryuji grinned, brushing off his jacket sleeve carelessly. What was all the fuss about Mona? I guess I overestimated him, Morgana snickered. Looks like Madaram's art isn't his only disappointment. You're all out of tricks, Madaram, Makoto said, walking up to join the others at the center. Persona 5 asked. CONFESSION piano and no H. How can this be? The palace ruler coughed out as he fell back on his hands, his body shaking as he looked up at the thieves in mortification. I'm a curious Madaram. I bring in full crowds every time I open an exhibit. No. You're nothing but a fraud, Madaram, said Yusuke, the artist taking slow steps toward his former mentor. A fraud who has abused people and art for his own gain. But it's not my fault. Madaram cried, grabbing the painting and hugging it close to his chest as he fell on his back, feebly crawling back from Yusuke. All they want is easily recognizable brands. I'm a victim in this, too. Wouldn't you agree? Making up excuses now? Ryuji scoffed, shaking his head. The art world revolves around money, after all. Madaram continued, his back against a planter as Yusuke loomed over him. You can't get anywhere without money. Yusuke, you understand, don't you? Being a poor artist is truly miserable. I just didn't want to return to that life. Yusuke didn't hear any more of it, grabbing Madaram by the collar and pulling him close. A fiend like you has no right to speak of the world of art. You're done here, along with this abominable world. And no, please. Just don't kill me. Madaram pleaded. Yusuke grit his teeth before pushing Madaram back to the ground, the fraud heaving in fear. Return to yourself in reality and confess to your crimes. All of them. Yusuke demanded. Why, you're not going to kill me? Yusuke edged closer to him. Swear it. Alright. Alright. Sweat trailed down his face in buckets. Yusuke seemed to relax at that, slowly backing away from Madaram. But what about the other one? In the black mask. Black mask. What are you talking about? Izuku said, raising a brow. No way. There's been another intruder besides us this whole time, Morgana exclaimed. But before the topic could be explored, the thieves jumped as the palace began to shake around them. There's no time. Hurry. Ryuji said, looking at Morgana. The cat didn't need to be told twice, skipping ahead of the others before hopping into the air and transforming into a bus. Wait, he can turn into a car. Makoto blanched in disbelief. And not now, Queen. We have to go. Izuku suggested, waving for her to get in. Actually, can you drive? What? Oh, why yeah. Makoto dashed to the front driver's side. Yusuke went and picked up the treasure before sparing a glance back at why Yusuke, wait, Madaram pleaded, his former student hesitating a moment. What do I do? Put an end to all of this and use your own artwork for once, Yusuke finally said, his gaze cast at Madaram from the side. Yusuke, come on. Anne called out. The young artist turned his back to Madaram again, making his way to the bus. Wait, please. Yusuke. Yusuke. Madaram cried, only to watch as his former student and the bus drive out of the courtyard and head for the entrance. A soft light soon enveloped the shadow. It returned to its true self, filling the real Madaram with a newfound sense of guilt and disgust with himself. Thus Madaram's palace came to an end. To be continued. This is the end of the video. If you enjoyed the story, then hit the like button and comment your favorite part, but for now, see you all in the next video.